Breaking news this morning, Admiral Cooper has presented President Trump with a plan to demolish Iran's missiles within 14 days. My question is, I thought we had already done that. We decimated them. We took away their missiles. We took away their defenses. We took away their Navy. We took away everything. They've been decimated. Here's President Trump.
In the meantime, we're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming. They're asking us not to do it, but, they tried shooting it last night. So we had 5 rockets shot going 8,500 miles an hour, and all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground. But they nevertheless took a shot, so it's our turn. And we'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point, but we're going to hit them very hard.
It is our turn. We're going back and forth. They take a turn, we take a turn. They take a turn, we take a turn. In fact, Iran is taking a turn every single day.
I thought that was really interesting language, too, when I heard him say that yesterday. Like, we're taking turns? Are we playing Parcheesi? What are we doing here? They take a turn. Come on.
Checkers.
I thought he said it twice.
Yep.
That I was like, what the hell are you talking about? We're taking turns?
There's a great piece editorial in the New York Post this morning about how this back and forth and all this, now I'm doing this and now I'm doing that, is projecting to even Trump followers a huge amount of confusion. I'm paraphrasing.
Oh, yeah.
Because people don't know what we're doing now or what the intent is. And what's happening here, we kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday. We did a lot of Fauci yesterday, but which we're going to do it again today. But
sure. But
we kind of touched on this with the discussion you and I had about this. Is that now he's projecting a flying by the seat pants doesn't really have a plan.
Well, whether he does or he doesn't, that is the impression.
That's it.
You and I talk about it every day.
That's it.
What the hell's going on here?
Meanwhile, Iran is receiving 400 Chinese shoulder-fire missile launchers.
Yeah.
They're called man-pads. Our biggest fear is having them here in the United States off of a runway like what we had a report as a false report in New Jersey last week of that happening. These are extended range. These aren't the ones that the guys in Afghanistan had about just went a few yards. No. These, in fact, have infrared, and they delete and defeat infrared jamming defense, which we have when we're flying our jets. We have infrared jamming for these missiles, and it keeps the missiles. This defeats that. They are highly resistant to electronic countermeasures. So, again, our jets flying overhead, we throw out electronic countermeasures. Well, these are Chinese, top of the line, so they're resistant to that. So they get through all of that, and they blow our planes out of the air. I swear, I hope we didn't miss our opportunity early on in this 5 months ago to destroy these people, to kill every one of their leadership, and to kill off all of their missiles and everything else. I hope it's not too late. I really do.
Well, I certainly believe that World War III has actually already started, and we're in it. No one's saying it out loud. I'm with you. I'm not exactly sure. We both are Trump supporters. We have been for years.
Of course.
I think he's been probably one of the most significant presidents in our history, if not the most significant by certain arguments. But this one, I'm not. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know. Well, I don't know how I feel about it.
We're much better than we were 5 months ago, okay?
Right.
In terms of Iran, okay?
Yeah, sure,
because
certainly.
We have cut a lot of what they could have done, and we've certainly set their nuclear program way, way back.
Right.
Last summer we did that, right? But, this has been going on for 47 years, and now we're, into year 48 or 49 or whatever you want to say, and I'll tell you what Jack Keane said. He's the guy that's on Fox, the general,
yeah.
And a war general, by the way.
Right.
And so is Robert Harward, who is a retired vice admiral, says, Iran will never make a deal. This was yesterday. They will continue to string President Trump along. You need to bomb away their missile and drone abilities and take the Strait of Hormuz and open it. Both of them, not in the same appearance.
Right.
Separate times on television yesterday, which is what I've been saying for weeks now. You've got to bomb all the missiles. You've got to bomb all of the drones. They're not going to make a deal. And, again, the same words, They're stringing President Trump along.
Yeah, we've been saying it almost since February that they're not going to agree to anything. They're not going to agree to – you can't negotiate with these people. So I hate the idea that he is being strung along because it's so out of character. I don't know how else to put it. It's so out of character for a guy like Donald Trump who thinks on many different levels at one time as a matter of course. He has to know this is going on, and if he knows this is going on, obviously he knows this is going on, especially if you're using terminology like it's our turn. He has to know that they're not going to agree to anything. So what is the plan? Is there a plan? I mean, I still have to believe there is one, but it's getting a little shaky for me on occasion.
Well, you continue to believe that. I'm starting to move over in a camp where there's not a plan, and I'm really concerned about maybe there's not a plan because every day this whole thing is all over the map, and we don't know everything.
Right.
I admit that, but just as observers out here watching what's happening on a day-to-day basis, if you're going to do war, it just mystifies me. And I'm not a war guy, okay, but I've read a lot of history. It mystifies me that we take turns. That doesn't.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
That doesn't make any sense. If you're going to commit us to a war, then you commit to a plan to utterly destroy your enemy. You don't want to give them a chance to get up. You destroy them and everything they've got.
Well, but my point is, if you and I can see this, and a lot of people can see it, I can't believe that they didn't see it, that they weren't aware that this is how it was going to go.
And remember, a couple of days ago I said, well, maybe the reason he's doing that is he's playing rope-a-dope, that whole thing about you sit there and your opponent gets worn out and he's waiting for them to use up all their missiles. But China is resupplying them. We know that Russia is because now Ukraine has joined us, and Ukraine is shooting ships that are trying to get munitions and other things over to Iran. But China's now sending some of the most lethal man pads that the world has ever seen. And all we have to have, God help us that this does not happen. Pray to God that this does not happen. But you get one of our jets knocked out of the sky and a couple of guys killed, but with one of these man pads.
Right.
Now what are you going to do, Mr. President? When you had a chance, you had your knee on their neck, and you could have just you're dead.
Well, I don't understand the ongoing rhetoric by him directly that we've decimated them. You started off this conversation with these, talking points. Their navy's at the bottom of the sea. We've devastated them. But that doesn't appear to be true, and especially if they're getting assistance from China, which, again, they would have known about.
See, he fired off in a really strong way, and then when it happened, I came on the radio that next morning. I said something happened where he just said, "Okay, I'm gonna raise my hands. Now we're gonna talk." You can't talk to these guys. They don't want to be talked to. They're not going to make a deal.
Well, they're religious nuts. Right. I mean, they really are. You can't get to a deal with somebody who sees their ultimate reward not of this earth.
Let me toss some more information out, and then we'll break. We had power airstrikes versus Iran last night, powerful, 7 p.m. San Antonio time. It was a response to Iran trying to kill Americans. A very broad target set is what they're telling us. Iranian shipping companies have been sanctioned for extorting commercial vessels to fund the IRGC. Some U.S. troops in the Middle East now may have to surrender their cell phones. They have been taking pictures and posting pictures and video where Iran has been successful, and Iran is reading now and watching those videos and seeing those pictures and using that as intel to further their attacks. And finally, the report for the Center of Strategic International Studies, we had 2,700 Patriot and defense missiles when we started. Now we have fewer than 1,000. They cost $3.9 million each and 2 years to make. We have used up 2/3, and we're down 65% of our Patriot missiles, defense missiles. Iran is still launching daily strikes, and of course the THAAD intercepts are down 38%. So we have lost a lot of our defensive measures. Quick break, more Ware and Rima coming up. Our friends over at Texas Rhino Shield getting set up and ready. you may break a sweat. Be careful with that. We're Ware and Rima. What's up?
Well, I want to unpack the Gina Ortiz-Jones thing just because I sat and watched it for a little while.
Okay.
And we haven't really touched on it, and we have a lot of stuff. I know we want to get back to some of our comments about Fauci, and we got a lot going on.
We got 3.5 hours to go.
We got 3.5 hours, and I lost an hour of my existence yesterday, early this morning, watching her opening comments at a local high school about this $158 million budget deficit.
Created by Ron Nirenberg. Certainly it was. And I want to kind of lay out my thoughts and then see what you think.
Infamously now, and this has been around for about a week and a half or a couple of weeks, she wants to petition local corporations like HEB essentially to help pay for stuff that the city can't afford to do with the budget shortfall, like the book festival and yada, yada, yada. One of the other things she wants to do, and I know a little bit about this because my wife went through one of these programs, which is the Ready to Work stuff, which are, I think, largely funded by federal dollars. A lot of this stuff came into the city as a result of COVID and people looking for other ways to make a living. It worked really well for my wife. She went to a certification to become a community health worker, which she was able to get a job fairly quickly after she was certified. But I think what she wants to do is take some of that money and redirect it and cut a bunch of those programs and cut a bunch of other programs and redirect that money. I only bring it up because I don't know that she can legally do that because some of this is federal money, and we're looking to allow this corporate, this corruption stuff where federal money, which is designated for a specific purpose, right, is not being used for those purposes, or the clinics don't exist or whatever. And I don't know that she can do that. My issue is it feels to me, and this is what I wanted your opinion on. She keeps talking about property taxes, and we may have to jack up property taxes. I know that's near and dear to your heart. You bring that up a lot. I'm a homeowner now, and it feels to me like in a subtle or maybe not so subtle way, she's kind of threatening this idea of property taxes being jacked up to cover this shortfall as a way to, I don't know, maybe leverage support for this idea of getting all these companies to fund some of the stuff that the city can't afford to do. I don't know. I mean, you and I haven't talked about the idea of going to like the Spurs and HEB and some of these local corporations or businesses to pay for this stuff. So I have no idea what your thoughts are on that. But I don't know. It just seems like the property tax thing is kind of a leverage for people in their mind to, well, I better support her on this, or, my property taxes are going to go up. I mean, all in all, it's about government inefficiency, and we're in this position because of the former mayor and the administration here in town. And
it's built over years.
Yeah.
I'm a small government guy.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about a municipal government, it has basically two priorities. One is public safety.
Right.
That's number one. And number two is infrastructure, like roads, sidewalks, and things, flooding zones, stuff like that. Beyond that, municipal government shouldn't be doing crap. And so municipal governments across the country, and San Antonio is no exception, in fact, it's one of the worst, has way too many programs. And I'm not discussing your wife's program. I'm just saying way too many programs that need to be cut. There's a lot of crap and a lot of fat that needs to go away. And the reason I call it Nirenberg's problem is because he was world famous for using these programs, funding these programs, and then those people would turn around and they would support him at election time. He ended up with a bunch of great supporters, because they were getting their funds, man. Cops Metro, as far as I'm concerned, my personal opinion, has been one of the biggest ripoffs here since 1972. And every year we fund them and fund them and fund them, and they're a left-wing political organization for the Democrats that we fund in San Antonio with our taxpayer money. So a lot of that stuff can be cut, and somebody's got to be ballsy enough to take a machete and cut a lot of that stuff. I predicted when they came out with the new valuations early in the spring of this year, I predicted, because they didn't go up so much on property taxes this year on evaluations.
Right.
Okay, they didn't go up on evaluations. And I said what they're going to do soon is they're going to hit you with a percentage increase. They're going to say, okay, your valuation stayed relatively level. Everybody's kind of calm, and they wiped their eyebrows, and they said, things are good, man. Next thing you know, they're going to hit you with a percentage increase, and that's what they're attempting to do, and they're attempting to use this to do that.
That's what I basically, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And just for the record also, my wife didn't become a Democrat because she went through the program.
Did I say that?
No, I didn't mean you said. No, I'm being funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I agree that it's about getting support. You're absolutely right.
A lot of these programs, I didn't say her program.
Oh, no, I'm just messing
a
with
lot,
you.
a lot of programs.
But a lot of these programs, what happened also with the Ready to Work, and I kind of know this too, is that people were put into these programs, but then the jobs that they were supposed to occupy after they got out went away.
Weren't there.
So to me, it feels like a money
of course
game.
it is.
And you're right. I agree with you absolutely.
For
that
politics.
to get people to, they put me through school, so I'm going to support them.
Now, before we run out of time, let me answer your question about corporations. No, and hell no. Corporations do way more than enough already on their own. They give billions and billions and billions of dollars philanthropically out of their own profits. Then many of them, like USAA and our former employer here and others, they encourage employees to take days off to go work at these nonprofits. Like, how many of you guys have had your
San Antonio Food Bank?
That's the one I was just about to give. Go down to the food bank with your company, your USAA T-shirt on, and USAA gives you a day off, paid. They're paying you to go down and box up food. That's not the answer. And here's the problem with it, Sean. By saying openly like this, well, we want the corporations to step in and save the botanical gardens and save all these other things. We want the corporations to do that. There is an implicit threat there. If you want to continue to do business with the city of San Antonio, if you want to continue with your contract with the city, those of you who have contracts, let's just say Toyota. I don't know how many Toyota vehicles the city buys, okay? I have no idea. I'm just using this as it could be an example, okay? So by saying, Toyota, we want you to save the botanical gardens, give another, $500 million, $500 million or whatever, or the implication is, or we may start looking at Chevy or Ford.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with a mayor or anybody in power starting to say, hey, open up your hands some more. To hell with you. These corporations open up their hands a lot.
I would say American businesses probably do that more than any other country on the face of the earth.
San Antonio.
Yeah.
You want to see poverty go up in San Antonio? Close down HEB.
Right.
Because not only are they creating jobs and funding jobs, but HEB does so much philanthropically for this area. They don't need to be asked to do anymore.
So to put a little bow on it, you and I both agree that she's full of crap. And all of this is full of crap. This is a shell game when it comes to money.
You have to cut spending. And until they're willing to cut spending by cutting these programs, until they're willing to do that, don't ask for another dime from either property owners or a company. You get your ass in gear and you cut spending, and then we can talk about where else you're going to get money.
That's precisely what they're doing, though. That's precisely what they're doing.
And by the way, when I say cut spending, don't cut cops and fire. That's one of the first places they cut. Is they say, well, we're just not going to hire 1,000 police officers.
No, because they're racist and they're awful anyway.
Hey, our new bout today is ready to build. Rima, KTSA.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives.
That was former DNI Tulsi Gabbard just a few weeks ago on her final day. She dropped that gigantic binder with all the, as I call them, receipts. And that's why this happened yesterday.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
111 times he decided he wasn't going to tell the American people, not Congress. I don't care what he tells Congress. I'm talking about the American people. He has made a conscious decision. Screw you. You don't deserve to know what was going on behind the scenes. What do you care, or what do I care about you? The fact that 200,000 businesses permanently closed in the United States of America. All of those dreams, small businesses, by the way. I'm not talking about Ford and Chevy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about little mom and pops. 200,000 of them gone.
Yeah.
All those workers gone, out of work. Then you had, of course, school children set back over and over again, and their brains were destroyed by what was going on. We had, as you mentioned before, a mental health crisis and an addiction crisis in this country like we have never seen before. Suicides soared in children. The numbers just quadrupled overnight, children taking their own lives. Also, the death of young, healthy athletes once the vax came out. Jobs lost. If you didn't take a vax, you lost your job. And, of course, denial of life-saving operations. Just a quick personal story real quick, all right?
Sure.
This will take one second.
Yeah.
Right before this was happening, I was having internal bleeding. Elaine can tell you about this. We didn't know it. We had no idea what was going on inside my body. I thought it was back issues because that's where it was manifesting, but I had a blood test and it said, I think it's called ferritin. It's your iron. It's completely gone. You're bleeding inside. We need to take a look. So what they decided to do was take a camera, go through my throat, and all the way through my system and out the rear. That's how this program worked. I had to go to Downtown Baptist, the only place they did this. I get there at the appointed time. It's 8 o'clock one morning. You were doing the show. And I was laying there. I had that funny little head thing on. They had already started the IVs, ready to roll me across the hall to do this procedure to stop my internal bleeding. Then the anesthesiologist walks in, and she said, "Have you had a blood transfusion?" And I said, "No, ma'am. I'm bleeding inside right now." And you could tell I was going away. I was wasting away. And she said, "Well, the governor has just shut down the state of Texas. I don't think we're going to be able to do the procedure." I said, "I'm dying. I'm bleeding to death inside. I can feel my life slipping away." And she said, "Let's go." And she ran me across the hall, and they did it. And sure enough, they found a number of places inside that they had to cauterize to stop my bleeding. But that's my point, is that because of this guy, Anthony Fauci, I was one of the lucky ones that was able to survive because of that great anesthesiologist who made a decision at that moment. Let's get him in there and get him cauterized. But so many others did not. What's that?
I remember when that happened in 2019 in December, I got my gastric sleeve surgery. And in 2020, obviously, January 2020, they started shutting down the surgeries. I remember when the governor shut it down.
That's the one that happened to me, Sean.
I was very lucky in that when I went in, it was in kind of the last year of COVID, so like it didn't affect any of my surgeries. But I was in the COVID ward a couple of times, and that's a dire situation. But that's my issue during that is that when I was in, if I had a visitor, basically my wife and my buddy Randy, who was in the medical field, are the only people I saw for 5 months because everybody else had to come in like a hazmat suit.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more, I couldn't, I was alone a lot. But a lot of people were in the hospital were really affected by that stuff.
And
they died.
I don't think Nancy was able to see you.
She was not.
Yeah, people couldn't come in.
I could not tell my wife goodbye if things
that's
went
ridiculous.
horribly wrong. It was just, and it was all Anthony Fauci's fault because it didn't need to be so. So the truth that he was hiding yesterday must be really bad. It's got to be really bad. Bad enough where he was willing to, because remember, if he was going to repeat what he had said before, right, it would have been covered by the whole pardon. But obviously what he was going to be compelled to say yesterday was going to be different than what was covered, and he was going to perjure himself, and so the truth must be really bad that he's sitting on and hiding for him to do that.
Well, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We were just having this conversation before we went on the air, and I know Pags was hitting this, and a lot of folks were hitting this yesterday, that how can you possibly incriminate yourself against a crime that you cannot be charged with because of the immunity? So he really doesn't have the legal standing. I guess Rand Paul's going to have a vote now on whether to hold him in contempt.
And states like Florida, the AG there, they're looking for a way to charge him. On Monday, when you and I were breaking this down, I think Elaine asked about the Fifth Amendment. I said he doesn't have Fifth Amendment protection because you give that up. You are compelled at that point. And yesterday, that was brought up by Josh Hawley. He said the court case, Supreme Court 1896, said you cannot stand on your privilege if you have been given some sort of immunity, which a pardon is. You don't have then the protection of the Fifth Amendment because there is no. You're not going to be held liable for anything.
You can't incriminate yourself against a crime you can't be charged with.
Which proves that he's guilty and he's hiding something that. Why else would you bring 6 hardcore attorneys? And as Bernie Moreno pointed out, one of the biggest and the worst when you want to get yourself some protection when you're in deep. What did he call it? S word.
Yeah, it was a great word, a great day for profanity yesterday. We'll talk about that a little later on. But you could tell when Rand Paul kicked his dirtbag, to use I think Hawley's word, dirtbag lawyer out because he was sitting right next to him. Do you notice how Fauci's hands started shaking even more? We were watching that paper in his hands, just kind of the script he was reading. He was nervous, dude.
Well, listen to this.
You're not recognized. You're not recognized. If you are unruly, you will be removed from the proceeding. You are not recognized, and you are not recognized, sir. Sir, you are not recognized. You are not recognized. Security.
They finally did end up removing the attorney. Now, here's the thing. You're not allowed in any court of law, including Congress, you're not allowed to plead the Fifth and then have your attorney testify on your behalf. That's not how it works. If you plead the Fifth, you have nothing to enter into the court. You can't have somebody else do it for you. And that's the point that Rand Paul made to this guy yesterday and forced him out because he was just trying to disrupt the proceedings. That was the only thing this guy was trying to do. He came up and sat at the table, jumping over a barrier that they had there.
They had set up rules where they agreed that guy agreed he would sit behind the table. He couldn't sit at the table. He knew what he was doing. He did it on purpose, and so Rand Paul kicked his ass out.
Well, now here's the deal. Lois Lerner.
There's a name we haven't heard in a while.
When she weaponized the IRS against conservative organizations under the Barack Hussein Obama administration, Lois Lerner was called before Congress, and she gave a long dissertation. Anthony Fauci's was just about a minute long yesterday. She gave a long dissertation and then said, I'm going to claim the Fifth on every single question. You can't do that. And they held her in contempt for that very thing because you can't make testimony and then say, but you can't ask me any questions. That's not how it works, guys. That's not how it works.
Right.
If you make a testimony, then you are compelled to answer the questions. Anthony Fauci could very well go to jail for a year, and he should. I agree. I mean, he should go to jail for the rest of his life. But out of this, he did yesterday, no doubt, obstruct justice.
Oh, I agree.
And he should be held in contempt. And the guy, by the way, when we look back at Steve Bannon going away for contempt for not answering questions in front of Congress, Pete Navarro went away for several months for not answering questions. This guy, he should have been cuffed yesterday. He should be wearing orange right now.
Oh, I agree. And you could tell even Anthony wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. I was watching his eyes and I was watching his face throughout all of this. And he kind of would vacillate between that, arrogance we've all come to know and love, and genuinely looking worried, like he wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Boy, I was shaking a
I
lot.
think they ought to definitely hold him in contempt, and he should at least spend a year in jail. I agree. He ought to be in a cage for the rest of his life for crimes against humanity.
Now, we have to break, but couple of final things. First of all, he does face that, and Rand Paul, there's a lot of questions yesterday whether or not it has to go to the full Senate, and they would, be a 51-47 or something like that vote in the Senate. It doesn't have to go to the full Senate. This committee can vote on that and immediately take it directly to the Department of Justice.
Right.
And Todd Blanche, if he gets approved, because Rhino John Cornyn is trying to slow that down, but Todd Blanche can then begin an investigation into contempt of Congress. But if you go back to 2022, this is what Anthony Fauci said about testifying.
Well, if I become a punching bag, I'm a punching bag, but I am very happy to testify before any congressional oversight committee. I have nothing to hide.
From 2022 to 2026, now he's got a lot to hide. More Ware and Rima coming up at River City Oral Surgery. Dr. Hever.
It sounds weird and dense, but it gave me hope. It kind of put the whole day in a different light. And I know it's cheesy to talk about random acts of kindness, but it really does. When you do something like that, when you do something nice for somebody else just to do it for its own sake, you set in motion people. So you set me on a completely different path for the rest of the day than I was on. Suddenly I'm in a better mood. And I'm going around and I'm being nice to people and I'm saying, giving people compliments or whatever.
Well, that's the
point.
point.
What I'm saying? It just creates this
sure.
energy.
It's a very popular thing. It's called pay it forward.
Right.
And so when I've had it happen to me at Whataburger, and what you do is when somebody does that for you, typically you repay that by buying the dinner for the people behind you, and it's one of those things that can continue because the next person does it, and the next person. It becomes a big chain in that whole
I've
line.
had that happen to me too.
Yeah,
At
it's
McDonald's.
nice.
Yeah,
on
it's
Austin
very.
Highway.
Yeah, did you? It's very cool. You're right about it changing the whole. I don't know. The whole.
Vibe.
I was going to say that young people call it a vibe. It changes the whole feeling of where you are, and it makes you want to do that and give back to other people as well.
It's quantum physics in a sense. Okay, if I'm in a crummy mood and I go into a store and I'm crummy to the cashier, I put him in a crummy mood, and then he's going to be crummy to somebody else, and it just kind of continues. If I go into a store and I'm nice to that guy's going to be, oh, that's cool. Then they're going to be, you know what I mean? It just creates this chain reaction of niceness, Trey.
Y'all are so soft. Y'all are so soft.
Oh, here he is.
You couldn't live in New York. Come on. I've never bought anyone's food or coffee behind me in the drive-thru. I got my own problems, my own finances. I don't know what those jokels ordered.
Jokels.
What if they ordered like $40 or something in Taco Bell? I can't afford that. I'm not doing it. No way.
Thanks for bringing down the room, James. Holy crap.
All right.
We've been to New York, and we have had wonderful people take care of us.
Yes.
And you also know New Yorkers tell you to F off. That's my pizza. Get out of line.
Where I grew up, Baltimore, D.C., people step over your dead body.
Okay, we got a break. More Ware and Rima coming up. KTSA.
Heading to the home show this weekend? If you're looking for a high-quality water softener at an unbeatable price, think Simple Water Softeners first. They offer top-of-the-line clock valves known for their durability and performance at a price you can't beat. And right now, you can get a 45K water softener installed for only $1,995, or upgrade to a 60K model for just $2,195. These prices include installation on a pre-plumb loop, so you won't have to worry about hidden fees. But that's not all. They also offer whole house filters and reverse osmosis systems, all designed to meet your family's filtration needs at their simple price. At Simple Water Softeners, they keep it simple. And when it's simple, it's affordable. Call Simple Water Softeners today at 210-960-2555 for a quick, no-hassle, over-the-phone quote. Or visit simplewatersofteners.com to learn more. That number again, 210-960-2555. That's 210-
I'm going to do some bits and pieces, quick hits here, starting with James Tallarico, okay?
Sure.
Because Patriots, listen, I realize people who listen to Ware and Rima typically are going to be conservatives, or I would consider you to be true blood patriots, not a Republican for the most part. But we do have a few weirdos who listen to the show who, I don't know, like self-flatulation or something like that, you know.
People who hate your guts will
Yeah.
listen a lot closer sometimes and more loyally than
Well, that's
people
true.
who don't.
That's true. So for you Tallarico listeners that are already supporting James Tallarico, you're a lost cause, and you're lying to yourself about who this guy is. But for those of you who are true patriots, I'm going to give you a little ammo to use when you're talking to folks about the midterm elections, because this is crucial that he does not win the Senate seat in the state of Texas. It is that serious. This is not hyperbole.
No, I agree.
It is that serious.
I concur.
This guy is a communist nut job, and he has some sort of strange, creepy fascination with transing kids. But I want to start, first of all, with this new ad that's out that I've been playing for you a few times where he's driving a truck. Found out yesterday that truck was a rented truck. That's not his truck.
No.
But he makes it seem like it's his truck. Yeah, I know.
He looks like a Mini Cooper
He
guy.
doesn't even own – no, he's not even – no, he's not cool enough for a Mini Cooper.
And he lives with his mama, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What's that?
He lives
Yeah.
with his mama.
Well,
doesn't
they
Got a bank
they
account.
share an address. I talked about that yesterday. But
They shared a dress?
yeah.
Address.
I'm sure that's
Oh,
true.
address. I was like, they shared. I wouldn't be shocked by either.
So he's driving a truck that was rented in that commercial. He doesn't have that truck. He plays with his Fauci action figure. He's got a Fauci action figure.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah, it's a tweet he put up several years ago, and he's so excited about it. It was in fact he considers Fauci a superhero. Tallarico praised the toy. It was a Christmas gift. It was Dr. Fauci in his doctor coat and all that kind of stuff. He wants to defund the police. He wants to close prisons. Now, I don't make this stuff up. I play it for you, and I put it on my X account at Trey Ware Show so you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to this guy. And you can hear him say it, because what he's doing now in the typical politician fashion is he's changing everything that he stood for, but he's just changing it to get elected. He's not actually changed his positions on anything. He laments the fact that he said stupid stuff, and now Ken Paxton's people, and I'm not a Ken Paxton person, I'm just a person who looks at this stuff and I see his lies. He's not upset. He's not saying he's changed and he feels differently about any of these topics. He is saying, oops, now that he's using this stuff against me, now they've turned all this stuff completely around. But here he is hosting a Zoom call. And the idea behind the Zoom call is with a bunch of Austin weirdos here to take money away from police and go to this, quote, community policing, where somebody's standing there about to rape you, got a knife against your chest, ma'am, and he's about to rape you. And when 911 is called to come get the rapist off of you, they send out a community worker to go, how are you feeling today? Why are you feeling like you want to rape this girl? Why is that in your mind right now? What's compelling you to do that? Why do you want to rape her? So this is what that's about.
Want to bring a lot of people together, from activists and advocates to community leaders to law enforcement officials themselves, to have a genuine discussion about what true public safety looks like and how we can end the current system of over-policing communities of color, which has been in place in this country since its founding.
Which that's a lie, okay? That's just absolutely a lie. But the idea is to take money away from police, and like Mom Donnie's doing in New York, where you call the police, you call 911. Remember, one of the first things Mom Donnie did was he said, I'm not hiring about 1,000 officers, 972 officers. Instead, we're going to send these people out that's just going to talk to you about the feelings. Why do you feel like you want to hurt somebody today and all that kind of stuff? Now, the other thing is, and I talk about this a lot because he's a total creep. The guy's a creep as far as I'm concerned. He creeps me out. He's got a fascination about children, okay? I'm talking about trans children because he said that's his number one issue. And yesterday, we didn't get to it because of all the Fauci stuff, but he again came out and was talking about how it's important that we give these children the opportunity to transition, to go to the opposite sex. So that means penis removal, breast removal, and the drugs in order to do so. But here he is mixing his religion with the deep, dark sin that is transgenderism.
I am proud to tell you that I have a 100% pro-equality voting record in the Texas legislature. I have, at every turn, stood with our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, and they are constantly under attack at the state capitol. And some folks ask me if my advocacy for the LGBTQ community is despite my faith, but I always clarify that it's because of my faith.
Yeah, because remember, he's the one who says God is trans, right? He's the one who believes that
God's non-binary.
Right. And that God also gave Mary the okay to abort Jesus. You want to get rid of him? Go ahead and have an abortion, Mary. Have at it.
Well, I want to go back to the prison thing briefly because, we hear this crap. First off, they've already done that in Austin. During the George Floyd era, they slashed the police budget by, I think, about 50% and brought in a lot of these people, these de-escalators. And did it work?
No.
Do you feel better in Austin, 5 or 6 years later?
Nope.
I certainly don't. I don't go there at all. So nowhere where they've actually done that has it actually done anything but bring more crime into the streets and into people's homes, basically. Because you're right. You can't call in Austin. You can't. I think they had an automated system there for a while there at 9/11 where you 911 where you call and you don't even get a real human being. People are, being attacked and they can't get a cop because they just weren't available.
We have a mutual friend here who has a son who works in construction up there, and they had to continually rebuild houses because the criminals would come in and destroy the bathtubs and the showers and turn the water on and fill the house up with water. They would call the cops where there are no cops to come out and handle the case, so they'd have to go in and rebuild the house again all the time.
Secondly, with a guy like Tallarico, he's like the rest of them. Everything he says and does is really about tricking people into voting for him and supporting him. At the heart of the let's get rid of all prisons and cops thing, in my opinion, is the idea, because they always tie it to people of color. He just did it with that audio you played. Is they want to get people they want to make sure black people are voting for him, and they think one of the reasons they get black people to vote for him is, well, we're going to get rid of prisons, and you black people are always in prison, so you'll support me if I want to get rid of cops in prisons.
Pretty racist, huh?
But it's incredibly racist. But it's the same thing with the voter ID.
So
same damn thing.
So add racist to James Tallarico.
Well, yeah,
he's a racist.
That's what it's all about.
He's a racist perv.
And whenever they do actually cut budgets to law enforcement and all that stuff, and we talk about the revolving door in the justice system, wow, does it produce less crime or more?
Well, let's look at this. He was asked on a podcast what his number one issue is, and I know I'm repeating myself, but this is good for everybody to hear.
Get back to this.
He said the number one issue that he wants to deal with is kids who want to transition. Transgender children is his number one thing. Not crime, not high property taxes, not even air quality, which you would think a good liberal would want to talk about, right? Right. None of those things came to his mind. He had none of that in his mind, how to educate people better in our school system. He didn't think about any of that. The number one and only thing that crossed his mind was, how do I transition more kids? Now, that's a creep.
Well, it's creepy, and you brought up the phone number thing when he was a teacher, I guess. He'd give out his phone number to kids, which is really weird.
Every day.
But again, at the heart of the trans issue is what? It's about getting support from certain communities. Who are the people who still hang on to the trans issues? Liberal white women, people with college degrees. So you go off on the trans stuff because you want those people to vote for you. At the end of the day, it's all all getting people to vote for you.
Well, of course it is. That's why he's driving a truck that was rented, okay? Wearing a cowboy hat.
It's all fake.
Sitting on a horse, that boy don't know the business end of a horse. Hey, James, turn around. You're looking at the horse's ass. All right, one final thing. Speaking of ass.
Yes, speaking of ass.
I have to tell you about a brand new toilet seat.
Excellent.
Oh, my God. What a segue.
The show's going to pot.
That's right. Exactly. Sit down. It detects AFib.
It what?
Detects AFib.
It takes your pulse?
So if I'm going to have a heart attack on the can, it'll let me know?
No, it's actually,
it takes your pulse?
Well, sort of, yes. It's better than an EKG. So what happens is a lot of Americans, about 71% of Americans, get this. This is a big number. About 71%. No.
Like Elvis?
Elvis. If Elvis would have had this, maybe he'd still be with us today. You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
No. Oh, God.
Hunka something. So anyway, no. 71% of Americans live with AFib. So and they don't
Say
even
it out all the way through. What is AFib exactly? So people.
Anterior
Irregular
fibrillation.
heartbeat.
Okay, all right.
Anterior fibrillation.
Irregular heartbeat. Right.
Irregular heartbeat.
Right.
Either it's beating too fast or too slow, or it's irregular. It just jumps
I've
all
had
over
that.
the place.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I know that's kind of why I'm doing the
Oh,
story.
yeah.
I'm kind of giving you an idea of something here.
Saved my life when I'm sitting on the can.
So that's right. So the
I
only
have that too, depending on who I'm looking at.
for a lot of people, it can only be discovered through EKG.
Right.
But people don't even know it. They don't even know to go get an EKG because they have no symptoms. 71% of Americans live with it and have no symptoms.
Right.
But what does everybody have to do once a day?
Poop.
Thank you. So
You're lucky.
some smart guy somewhere said, okay, let's put an EKG in a toilet seat, which is what they did. And what they found out is, you're looking at me like, oh, God, why are you doing
I'm
this?
thinking of my wife. If she's listening, she's going to be buying one of these damn things.
Check this out. What they found out through the research is it is more reliable and detects AFib more than an EKG they hook you up to at the doctor's office.
I could see that.
How much, and is it padded?
Is it what?
Padded, like a padded toilet seat.
I don't know if it's padded or not, and I don't know what it costs, but, it might be worth it.
I'm
you
not
know?
looking at you. I think it makes absolute sense.
I mean, you
you're-
have to sit down once a day.
Right.
Everybody does. Well, if
Well,
like
more
you
or
said,
less.
if you want to.
If you're lucky, if you eat your fiber.
Right.
More or
Exactly.
less, right.
Exactly. If you're regular. So why not say, okay, let's just check. I'd say put a BP machine in there and a pulse monitor. Why not? You
And
sit down-
actually,
that might actually feel good because the BP machine, when it first goes off, it's got that vibration. That might actually be, oh, hey, that's nice.
I don't want a vibrating toilet seat vibrating my ass. I just want to get it done and get out of there.
Hello.
It is an interesting concept.
That's
though.
right.
Getting medical information while sitting on the toilet.
Right. Right.
And what if it can tell you about minerals and vitamins that you're missing out?
Oh, God.
See, I mean, there's so many applications that it could do if you just got
A
it.
urine test.
It could do everything. Well, especially here, the guys here have terrible aim. So yeah, you could definitely.
God.
Ow.
It's true.
That's because they're all old. They can't see the hole.
I have perfect aim. Okay. This is weird. No, but I mean that's it's a great
Doesn't
idea.
that make
it's
sense?
such an obvious idea in a sense that it's about time somebody thought of it.
So
it's like one of those things like I wish I'd have thought of an EKG toilet seat.
Well,
I'd be a millionaire right now.
Yeah, that's
bajillionaire.
the whole thing right there. I'm thinking Leiniger and James. Did you think about this? Why didn't you come up with this? Let me tell you about my friends. Since we're talking about health, Evolve Medical Group. Boy, this fits perfectly, doesn't it? I didn't plan. I did
Nice
not.
one, Trey.
I
That's a
didn't
nice-
plan it.
Got a couple of celebrity stories, I guess we could put it that way. First topic, well, both are kind of serious. And since we were talking about getting your EKG read on the toilet seat, I want to get just a little serious. Maybe not too serious. See what you think about this. I'm not a football guy, so all I know about Tony Romo is he's a really famous former football player, right? Like one of the best, yeah. And they released the video, the dash cam stuff or the comp cam stuff of his DWI arrest. I just watched it for a second when I was reading the story. We dealt with Tiger Woods in his stop, a couple of months ago, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about just because somebody is famous or is known that you release. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to diminish the crime. It's a horrible thing to get behind the wheel when you've been messed up and you put people's lives at risk and you don't. It's got to. It's horrible. You and I, when we drive into work, are probably surrounded by people at that time of day, especially you who have had way too much to drink. But a non-famous person gets pulled over, you're probably not going to see the video footage. You know what I mean?
Never going to hear anything about it.
As a news story.
You won't hear anything about it.
And people who are anybody who is in that situation has a problem. You know what I mean? Anybody who is in that situation.
Well, if they didn't before, they got one now.
Yeah, and I don't know that you're really helping out folks in a sense if they're going to try to get into a recovery journey by, I know why they do it, because he's a famous guy. It gets clicks, right?
Okay, can I say something here?
Sure.
What's the point of putting this stuff up? That's the only point, is to get clicks to your website, and it's absolutely unnecessary. There's nothing to be gained by this. You can just say Tony Romo got popped, and it's suspicion of DUI or whatever they called it. I think it was OWI or whatever, operating under the influence or whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, you don't need that. It serves no purpose. Does it make you feel better that you get to see him trying to go through that? Does that make you feel better?
I think, and you and I know this, that when you're a famous person, people love it when you fall, right? So people actually do kind of eat this stuff up
ridiculous.
From a certain perspective. It's gross.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. It doesn't have any newsworthiness to it, really.
I tell you what. Are you drunk right now?
No.
That's a rhetorical question.
Oh,
I know you're not.
No,
are you drunk right
not.
now?
No, I'm not.
Stand up, straighten out your right leg, and stand on your left foot for a minute.
Right.
With your eyes closed. You're totally stone cold sober right now, and I guarantee you couldn't do it.
Oh, you're saying the tests themselves are
absolutely
kind of hard.
they are built to make you fail. So then you have to immediately go to breathalyzer, and then when you say I'm not doing breathalyzer, well then we're going to get a warrant. We're going to draw your blood. The system is set up against these guys. That's fine. I don't care. You shouldn't drink. You should not drink and drive. But my point is, then you got to put that on the internet?
Well,
what's the purpose?
I may disagree a little bit with some of the roadside tests. I mean, they're pretty effective as far as, somebody, if you are affected to operate a vehicle, there are certain things you're just not going to be able to do.
Well, the eye test, of course. I'm not throwing them all out. I'm talking about those specific ones.
But the idea that because he's a famous person, it's got to be, a big news story, I think it's kind of gross.
We have local famous people that we know that went through this as well.
Recently, we've seen this. We've talked about it over the past couple of years. Yeah, I just think it's unfortunate.
It is.
The other story I want to bring up is, and John Nolte wrote a great piece on this on Breitbart, is the burgeoning Jared Leto story. And I've never seen Dallas Buyers Club. I've seen a few things he's done. The BBC put out a documentary where they got a bunch of women who are saying that he was assaulting them or grooming them when they were minors. Nolte writes about how I haven't seen the documentary, obviously, and I really don't have a lot of interest in Jared Leto, to be honest with you.
Did you see the Joker one?
I saw the Joker movie,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a bad actor.
Okay.
He is an Oscar winner, and I guess
all right, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
When I've heard from, with the Matthew McConaughey movie, he was worthy of the Oscar. But I have read over the years that he's kind of a jerk, and when he did the Joker thing, he did some weird crap to some of the other cast members. Nolte's piece, though, talks about how the women who are coming forward now, there's, in the documentary, there's no real evidence being presented.
Mm-hmm.
This happened years ago, I think between the early 00s and around 2014, 2015, Nolte's point is, well, if you feel that you had, suffered a crime, why didn't you come forward early? I'm not saying Jared Leto is or is not guilty. I don't know. And certainly it's something that's kind of trailed him for a lot of years. This is something that's come up here and there. I have taken notice of that. But I think we all learned a pretty big lesson during the Me Too movement that you can accuse somebody of something in the public square, right? And they just sort of become guilty of it. And I think you're right. I think Nolte's point is that, in that Jared Leto, because of the accusations, is already kind of guilty by a lot of people.
And they do it all the time.
Yeah.
More Ware and Rima coming up. KTSA.
Guests of Ware and Rima appear via the Steve
550 KTSA and FM 107.1.
Okay, it's 7:34. Thank you, Kristen. We're Ware and Rima at KTSA. Well, look, among all the other stuff that COVID was, I'm chalking it up as well. Not totally. I'm saying this is just a component of it.
What?
To more of the evil that I think, that I've always believed, that Big Pharma does. Okay, Big Pharma does good things. There's some good things that have come out of Big Pharma. Okay,
yeah.
So I'm not
drugs.
I'm not throwing the baby out with a bathwater. Right. But Sean, they do so much evil and so much control of our lives, to the point where throughout the years, I have read in a number of occasions of how they've invested in terrible types of foods, like all the processed foods and all that stuff, which brings about certain health conditions. And then all of a sudden, hey, we have a drug to deal with that, whether it's high cholesterol and numbers that change on a regular basis. Oh, look at that number of cholesterol. They keep lowering the number to where everybody's got a baby coming out the womb now has high cholesterol, needs to be on Lipitor. That kind of stuff that they've been doing now for decades out of Big Pharma. They do good, but there's a lot of stuff that's just pure evil. And I think this whole thing with COVID, I can smell them all over it with the vax, okay?
Oh, I agree. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So let me play Bobby Kennedy from last night.
In July of 2021, after receiving the vaccine. So he took the Moderna vaccine on national TV, telling in a very, very highly publicized press conference to show people that was safe. Then he got one of the primary, most expected adverse events, which was potentially deadly blood clots in his lung, myocardial infarction. He kept that secret from the American public, and we only learned about it because of his diary.
Bastard. He knew it, and he got it, and he kept it a secret, and we had young male athletes. Jimmy and I couldn't count the numbers of them anymore.
We just do it every day.
We kept a running tab on it, and it got so high we said, to hell with it, it's just out of control. But yet, this evil, walking on two legs, Anthony Fauci, in 2020, was going around after the vaccine, 2021, and they were knocking on doors in Washington, D.C.,
right.
And the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, was with him. So that's going to be the woman that you're going to hear. But I admire this black gentleman. They were knocking on these homes that are, connected together. I forget what you call them. But anyway.
Row houses.
Row houses,
yeah.
Thank you. And so they knocked on one, and this guy comes out, says, "You people crazy."
People in America are not settled with the information that's been given to us right now. So I'm not going to be lining up taking a shot or a vaccination for something that wasn't clear in the first place. And then you all create a shot in miraculous time. It takes years to create vaccination.
Well, it used to take years.
Okay, it used to.
You know how many years were invested in this approach? About 20 years of science to get us to be able to do it.
20 years is not enough. And 9 months is definitely not enough for nobody to be taking no vaccination that you all came up with.
The only reason I'm talking to you right now is
that's Muriel Bowser there.
as we are, is that I've been vaccinated.
Right.
But if it allows thousands of people like you don't get vaccinated, you're going to let this virus continue to percolate in this country and in this world.
Something like
you're going to be killing people. Now listen to the man's response.
Common flu then, right?
And
it's much more serious than the flu.
Well, the flu kills a lot of people.
Now, I want you to pay close attention to this one, because Fauci screws the pooch on this and messes up. When they're talking about how many people that the flu kills, Fauci admits that they were cooking the books because nobody dies of the flu now. Listen.
Yeah. You know how many people died of the flu the last year? I mean, not this year, virtually none, but the previous.
Virtually none died from the flu this year, but the previous year.
This year, about 20 to 30,000.
So we went from 20 to 30,000 people dying of the flu to 0 people during COVID. That's because they were coding all of those flu deaths as COVID deaths. They were lying to you like they were doing with heart attacks, too.
Right. I remember when this happened.
Oh, it's
I remember
big.
we talked about it because it wasn't just – it was a bunch of houses they went to.
Yes.
And pretty much all the black people that came out were like, I ain't taking it.
Well, listen.
The number that you all giving that died, that's once again, that's you all's number.
You going to pass?
Yeah, definitely. Because when you start talking about paying people to get vaccinated, when you start talking about incentivizing things to get people vaccinated. It's something else going on with that. Something else. It's something else going on.
It is something going on.
There's
With
something
it.
else.
You're
going
right,
on.
but I'm glad millions of people like me and most everybody here didn't get an incentive. You know what their incentive was? Protecting their health and protecting the city. But I won't keep you anymore.
It's okay, because my incentive, y'all campaign is about fear. It's about inciting fear in people. You all attack people with fear. And that's what this pandemic is. It's a fear. It's fear, this pandemic.
So that guy is, I guess, retroactively one of my heroes because he was telling the truth. And I rue the day I had to take that shot. And I had to take it. I was like, these other people, Nancy and I had to travel for our company, and I had to take it for that. But I think about the people, she's talking about, he said, you're paying people to take it. When you have to pay people to take something, there's something wrong here. And it went well beyond just paying people. They were threatening people with their livelihoods. And there's people listening to us right now who lost their jobs because they wouldn't take the vaccine. Well, yeah. That's insanity. That's criminal.
Especially in the military and the medical field. But a lot of people lost their careers as a result of this stuff.
Sicko.
And, again, it's kind of that inherent racism that we were discussing when it comes to Tallarico and closing down all the prisons. I remember that day. They rolled into that neighborhood thinking, we could just tell these stupid black people to go get the vaccine and they'll do it because they're stupid and they do whatever we tell them to do. And you could see, if you watch the video, and you could look up, they talked to a few people, the look of surprise on the faces of Muriel Bowser and Anthony Fauci when all of a sudden they're getting responses like that. They really didn't expect that crap.
Well, and to the point where she just walked off. She said, all right, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. We're going to go down and move on, because they were looking for people that they could shift. And
there
he was
several.
not. They weren't going to flip this guy. And so, it's time to move on to the next guy that we can flip, intimidate, and fear. And that's what he left them with. He said, this is a campaign of fear.
But they went to a few, and
that's what I'm saying.
Were like, no, I ain't getting that. Same thing happened in New York City, if you remember.
Here he is.
You're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science. Science and the truth are being attacked.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
That is a person who knows that he's guilty as sin, and there's stuff he wants to hide. And again, I'm coming back to the vax. He doesn't want to be asked questions under oath about that vaccine. He wants to hide it. He doesn't want anybody to know. I'm not saying that's the only thing he's trying to hide, John. There's a myriad of things he wants to hide. But since we're talking about the vax here in particular, he doesn't want the truth about what they were putting into our bodies to come out. There was a story last week. I talked about it briefly last week. They are now with cadavers, dead people, as the ME is doing the autopsy. The people who were vaccinated, they're now finding long strings of white something. They look like long white worms that they're pulling out of the arteries of people. There's something going on with this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Look, there's the obvious reason, too. He made money. Don't tell me that guy didn't somehow make a crap load of money off those vaccines.
Well, as Josh Hawley found out yesterday, or brought to our attention yesterday, he was sending out I'm going to the money thing.
Sure.
He was sending out teams of 8 people, and the names were listed there, that were going out and soliciting awards, and each award paid money. Not only that, I brought up yesterday, remember, that he was an investor in a restaurant in San Francisco with Nancy and Paul Pelosi. They got PPP funds. So if he's an investor in one restaurant that got PPP funds, how many other places was he investing in that got PPP money? I want to know.
Those PPP funds, you don't have to pay back, right?
They did not pay them back. They didn't. There were a lot. You were supposed to, but there were a lot of people that did not pay them back. No.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, and we don't. We have to say allegedly on this one, if he had like a direct connection with Big Pharma, where he's getting money directly for helping get this vax
and
out
see
there.
if that's the case, if they find that to be the case, he's already committed perjury because he was asked that by a Senate committee during COVID. They had a story from Time Magazine. $700 million went to these researchers for these vaccines. They call it royalties. Like you get a royalty on a book, I get one on a song. They get royalties for these vaccinations. He said, I get none. I did an mRNA 20 years ago, and I got $100 a year. That's all I get.
I don't believe.
And one more thing before we break. Josh Hawley was on fire with this guy yesterday. What color's the carpet in front of you, sir? Under the advisory council. What color tie do you have on? Under the advisory council. I got. And then Josh Hawley had enough of this Fifth Amendment BS he was throwing around.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyer is sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people.
Amen.
But you got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic.
One final thing.
On the advice of counsel, I respect.
That's enough, Anthony. I don't want to hear that again. One other thing I think to point out is how he used these people in his offices to commit these crimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether it was destroying documents, like the assistant to him said, we were destroying them, tons of them, left and right, every single day. We were destroying documents, to sending out these people to make money for him specifically.
Cash awards.
And so that is a criminal use of those people as well. But he has a blanket immunity because of the auto pen, or maybe he doesn't. We're going to find out.
You know, a lot of folks have made the argument, including you and me on this show, that you can't claim immunity or, the Fifth Amendment if you cannot be convicted for the crimes you may incriminate yourself by speaking about. There's no legal argument for it.
And I take it a little bit further. I say the pardon is invalid. You cannot use, and the president the president disagrees with me. He said yesterday, I respect that pardon, blah, blah, blah. I sign everything personally. But as I told you yesterday, Joe Biden knew that was not right, because the only pardon he signed that he wanted to stick, that he wanted to make sure that it was going to stick, no matter who challenged it, no matter what court, was his own son. So he signed that one himself.
Well, and let us not forget the conversation Mike Johnson had with Biden, where he asked him about an executive action he signed.
And he had no idea.
He had no idea what it was.
And that's why I'm saying this thing has got to be invalid. He didn't know that he was giving Anthony a complete and total pardon. The same thing with the J6 committee.
Yeah.
Liz Cheney and the rest of them, Bernie Thompson. They all got that too. And it was given by Nira Tienden is her name, and the auto pen. She was operating the auto pen, and Joe didn't know it. We got to take a break. More Ware and Rima.
feels so unnatural. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so forced. And you could tell it's forced, when they're dropping the F-bomb to try to seem like they're a big tough guy or they're whatever. And we point that crap out all the time. Yesterday, I think we saw the other kind of profanity in that Bernie Moreno, first when he said, "Do you feel you're in deep S?" right, which I thought was hilarious. And then a little while ago, thankfully, as you pointed out, we didn't have it. We weren't doing it on the air, but he dropped the F-bomb on Anthony Fauci. And I thought it was glorious because that was a guy who very obviously talks that way. We've heard Trump yesterday said I'm going to, told Trey Yingst he's going to bomb the blanking blank out of him. I think when you are, like me, a naturally cussy guy or a naturally cussy person, okay, it comes off as very passionate. I thought the usage of the F-bomb yesterday was absolutely appropriate and was absolutely in context. I know it's the Senate. I know it's decorum.
Well,
I don't care. Anthony Fauci had that coming.
Don't get upset at me.
I'm not.
I'm just going to point something out.
That's fine.
Okay.
We can disagree.
No, we're not disagreeing. But that's incongruous with what you said about in public, be careful because somebody might be listening who might be offended.
Well, that's true.
That was in the middle of the day. A bunch of people
have. It's a
have
bit of a double standard.
Yes, that's
but
a double standard.
I loved the double standard yesterday.
I'm just making,
Bernie Moreno laying it out.
I just want to point that out.
Yeah, laying it out in no uncertain terms.
If there's a bunch of fellas and they were sitting around in a room and it was a sealed off room and he said, "You're a piece of S and you're in deep S. And who the F do you think you are?" That'd be something different than on national television where you don't know who might be. And there was no warning coming up.
No, there wasn't.
So you don't know.
It was glorious.
Okay. I'm not trying to get crossways with you.
I know you're not. I know you're not.
What I'm trying to do,
fine.
I'm trying to point out how I sometimes I use language that's not appropriate, and I feel like, man, I got to be careful because I don't want to do that around other people that might take offense to it, because people still take offense to it.
You have to worry about decorum, and you're in a Senate hearing.
That's what he said before you walked back in. He was it's the Senate is decorum. My thing was on national TV, and he knew it was on national TV. You probably got kids, and now a mama's got to do, and particularly
but you will talk. We all talk kind of depending on who we're talking to.
Right.
We'll say some pretty gnarly crap.
Yes, But again, now you got a mama who's got to try to explain to the 4-year-old son what's that F word.
And Elaine, what you missed is I am wrapping my arms around the double standard and snuggling up to it. In that I don't care if a mom's got to explain why this senator said the F-bomb to this little guy, then explain who the little guy is. And so I was making a contrast because I don't. That was genuine.
I told you not to get mad at me.
What I can't stand, I'm sitting on the toilet. It's going to take my EKG here. Toilet's starting to vibrate. I'm just saying, what I can't stand is when people start dropping words and it's so painfully obvious.
Well, I'm with you on
they're
that.
Doing it to be fake or look at how manly I am.
Like Pete Buttigieg.
Like Pete Buttigieg.
Okay, right. No, yeah, exactly. Totally with you.
Because it's disingenuous.
Totally with you.
That felt very real to me yesterday.
I understand.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Well,
it most certainly was very real.
Yeah,
I just think it was not in the right place because you never know who's going to be watching on TV.
There's a lot of passion. And with Fauci, I could understand the anger. But again, decorum. If you're in a hospital emergency room and a doctor comes in and says you're in deep S,
right.
It's got to be.
But I guarantee that doctor won't do that if your 7-year-old's sitting there.
Kids got to learn somehow.
Oh,
that's how it got to go.
We got to go. More Ware and Rima coming up. KTSA.
Folks, whether your home is brand new or decades old, your water could be causing damage that you don't even see. Trey.
They could come to an agreement during training camp. In other NFL news, former Texas A&M and current Cincinnati Bengals Shamar Stewart was carted off the field yesterday with a left leg injury. Stewart was the Bengals' first-round pick in 2025. He's battled injuries last season while totaling just 1 sack in 8 games. I'm Rob Thompson for 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
KTSA News Time is 8:03.
Think of your portfolio like a recipe. Every ingredient has a purpose, and too much of one thing can throw everything off. It's not much different when it comes to investments. A lot of investors aren't really building portfolios. They're just collecting investments over time. Different stocks, different funds, but no clear structure, no clear role for each piece. The result? A portfolio that may not perform the way you expect when conditions change. I'm Carl Eggers, and I work with clients to build portfolios that are intentional, balanced, and aligned with their goals. If yours feels scattered, it may be time to simplify. Visit creatingricherlives.com. That's creatingricherlives.com, or give me a call at 210-526-0057. That's 210-526-0057. You hear me every Monday morning on the Trey Ware Show, and I look forward to talking to you.
Investment advisory services offered by Cap Financial Partners, LLC, an investment advisor registered under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940.
South Texas diesel owners, when your truck's down, downtime costs money. Trust the diesel experts at DPFR. DPFR, diesel problems fixed right. Learn more at dpfrsa.com or call 726-888-7990.
The largest gun show in San Antonio is at the Shriner Auditorium this weekend. Texas Gun Shows is open this Friday from 4 to 7 p.m., 10 a.m. to 5 Saturday, and then 10 a.m. to 4 Sunday. Texas Gun Shows is at the Shriner Auditorium on 1604 this Friday through Sunday.
KTSA News brought to you by Stevens Roofing.
KTSA News Time is 8:04 and rush hour is happening. Let's get the latest right here. KTSA Time Saver Traffic.
Good morning. We are working an accident, 281 northbound. It's just past St. Mary's. Only the 2 center lanes open. Stop and go from 35, about a 15-minute delay. Northbound 35, Thousand Oaks up to Wiedner. That's ongoing road work. 2 right lanes are closed. That's going to take you about 25 minutes to get through. You're going to slow down right around Walsham. Northbound 35, Eisenhower to 410. That's rolling stop and go. 410 eastbound Austin Highway to 35. 2 right lanes are closed. That's a 10-minute delay. Slow from Harry Wurzbach. I'm Debbie Alcacer, KTSA Time Saver Traffic.
Triple-digit heat today and tomorrow. Mostly sunny today, the high of 100. There'll be a steady breeze this evening, otherwise partly cloudy and warm tonight. The low 77 along the Riverwalk and 72 in the Hill Country. Partly sunny, back to 100 for our Friday. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina with your KTSA Stevens Roofing AccuWeather forecast.
Up to 78 degrees, but it feels more like 90. San Antonio's severe weather station. I'm Christian Blood. Stay connected with News Talk 550 KTSA and FM 1071.
News Talk 550 KTSA.
Well, let me lay this out. I'm going to do some quick hit bits and pieces real fast, but I'm watching for Rand Paul. He's supposed to say something, and we'll dip into it. If there's any news, we want to be able to catch that. I don't know what he's going to say that would be news other than he's going with a contempt and ready to have a contempt vote. So we're going to watch and see what he says. Ryder Williams, okay? I made a video about this, Sean, and I don't know if it's up yet or not, but I did it this morning before anybody got here, and I feel this way about Ryder Williams. A lot of older folks, and it's been going on for a long time, talk about younger generation. Well, them kids coming along, they just got to ruin the whole, my parents' generation, their parents, meaning my grandparents, would say, that rock and roll is going to be the death of us all. That Elvis Presley with his swinging hip. Remember all that stuff?
Well, yeah.
Right? And
every generation looks at the generation coming up and goes, you don't know nothing.
That's right. That's why I want to throw some light on Ryder Williams, 16 years old. And it's all on my X account. I've had this thing up there for days, just haven't been able to talk about it, all the other news. But he's the guy, his very first year as a lifeguard in California. The water's cool. It's a nice day. It's easy going. 10-year-old Nathaniel, that's all we know. Nathaniel walks up and goes out in the water because it's nice and calm. And then all of a sudden there was a hurricane down around Baja, so it shoved a bunch of water up their direction. And when it got there, it was quite angry, and it just came out of nowhere. Is he talking now? Let's see what he's saying. I just want to dip in for a second, see what he's saying.
President Joe Biden believed that Anthony Fauci needed a pardon.
I think that's a perplexing question, and we don't have an answer. Anthony Fauci hasn't answered it. You can only presume that he felt he was guilty of various crimes or could be indicted. I think there was a request made by Anthony Fauci and his attorneys, but I don't know that they ever specified. One of the questions we were going to ask yesterday is who requested the pardon and what specific crimes were you concerned with being prosecuted for? The crimes that we are aware of are lying to Congress, destroying public records. Those are the two main categories that we looked at yesterday. We had emails from his longtime assistant saying, deleted tons of emails for you over the weekend. We had specific emails that were deleted, including to Francis Collins, the head of the NIH, where he says, please read this and delete it, and then delete it from your deleted files. We had him requesting people to delete phone calls from voicemail as well. So I think that he had an extensive period of time where he was always covering his trail, always trying to make sure that there wasn't any trail left that could catch up to him.
Yeah, the deletion seems kind of wacky, that late in the game, especially when everybody's watching him. You began your testimony, as I recall, in January of 2020. And just to recall, there were scientists all over the world trying to figure out what this virus was all about, where it came from, and where it was going. So Fauci's diary entry on January 26 says, now we know the market was not the source, it was the amplifier. Having said that, somewhere the virus jumped from animals to humans. Is it logical to think that Fauci's evolution was like many scientists? That in the beginning he thought it was the lab, and then he changed to the wet market, and other scientists went back and forth on this. If you were to follow that line of thinking, is that his out in this whole mess?
I guess the problem with giving him the benefit of doubt is you have to calculate in that he has a conflict of interest. Since he funded the research in the Wuhan lab, the dangerous research that led to this, he has a self-interest in it not being from the lab. So he admits early on to his diary that it didn't come from the wet market, but the wet market was a big argument for this coming from nature. But for years, we put together a compilation of him on television saying, wet market, wet market, wet market, wet market. He continued to argue for years that it came from the wet market, even though he knew in January of 2020 that it didn't. The other thing that we know is that early on, there was a question of whether or not, wow, the structure of this virus looks like it's been manipulated. Nobel laureates, David Baltimore, said the same thing, looks like the smoking gun. Even his virologists that were his buddies that were advising him all thought that privately, but they all said something different publicly. And that's really the theme of all of this, is virtually everything he believed privately, he said the opposite publicly. You remember early on he told the cabinet member, we've studied masks in pandemics, they don't work for respiratory viruses, just go about your trip and you don't need to wear a mask. And then publicly he's wearing 3 masks, including wearing masks outside. So really it was a lot of contradictions, but it damaged a lot of people.
Okay, thank you. That's Rand Paul. Anything else comes out of that that's newsworthy, we'll get to it. What I want him put under oath and asked is about the Scientific Advisory Group Vaccine Company Incorporated. He joined that in 2023, and the Biden administration awarded that company $28 million to develop vaccines for viruses with pandemic potential. And now Eli Lilly has bought that company for $1.55 billion.
It's a lot of money, man.
Well, and that's to me, that's what this was. This was a money-making scam and scheme for a lot of people, from Big Pharma. I'll say this guy allegedly, and then we'll go on down the line with everybody else who made a crap ton of money, including fraudsters who cleared out that PPP program,
right,
and ran back to their foreign countries and everywhere else.
Very obviously, fortunes were made during COVID.
On us.
Yeah.
Because the American taxpayers are the ones who paid for it, and then people paid for it with their lives as well. Remember, the saying, I put this in a video yesterday, Anthony Fauci lied and people died. And it's absolutely true. There is a direct correlation, I believe, between the things he told us to do, the things that we had to do, the power-hungry, godlike, feature that he took on himself. I shut down all of California with a phone call. Those kind of things. people died. And the heartbreaking, I'm sorry, but
Well, you're fine.
the heartbreaking story about all this, I saw a girl on this morning who had taken a video of her mom in her 70s, or maybe even older than that, singing God Bless America with her dad, who was in one of those homes. And she had to sit outside looking through a window. He's dying in one of those old folks' homes. She had to be on the phone singing that song with him, God Bless America, back and forth at each other. The old man died. It was their 60th wedding anniversary. The old man died in that home, and she couldn't even be in there with her 60th anniversary husband to hold his hand while he died because this guy, Anthony Fauci.
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky in a sense that I flew out to see my brother when I did. Had I waited, I think, 3 or 4 days when he got cancer, I wouldn't have been able to see him. A lot of people missed those final moments with their loved ones because of this crap. And yeah, I mean, misinformation. Again, the gloating is what really makes me want to vomit. When you just mentioned the quote about I did this, shut all these things down, and because I said so, it happened. It's plainly obvious, and this has been obvious, or we've known about this for a couple of years, that privately, he was really deriving joy from the ability to get people to do what he wanted them to do, which wasn't scientifically verified. We knew it when Nuremberg and the judge had their stupid masks on, and he had that howdy doody bandana around his face. Yeah.
But I'm looking at a post from Bill Maluzan. I just shared it on my X account of all the beaches that were closed.
Yes.
You're closing a beach. You're closing a beach. And people bit off on it. And today you will still see people driving in their cars with a mask on, and they're alone. There's nobody else in the freaking car with you.
I see them in my neighborhood every day. And also, yesterday, you probably picked up on this. I had people on social media, on Facebook, that were, oh, it's horrible the way Anthony Fauci was treated yesterday.
Let's talk about that for a second, because on M-Snow last night they had some doctor, and she was very highly upset about the way he was being treated over these diary entries. And here's what she said. She said, I read all 1,500 pages of his diary, every last one of them. And the Republicans pointing out how he was gloating about knowing this celebrity or having selfies taken. She said it's a very small fraction of everything else. Most of the diary was about how he was getting death threats and how he had to stay up late at night and he had to have security follow him around. That's what most of the diary was about, and the hard work they were doing. Very little of it is what we have pointed out on our show and other conservative media, talking about all this, fame whoreness that he was going through. Well, the fact of the matter is, okay, let's just take an analogy. So you find the diary of a mass murderer. And most of the diary is about the sweet and loving stuff he did with his family and his kiddos when they were growing up. And a tiny little portion is about the mass murdering. So we're going to toss out all of the other stuff? Please, give me a freaking break.
When you just presented that, the thought that popped in my head was, I don't give a crap if it was one paragraph.
Right.
Of the entire 1,000
one sentence.
pages. Doesn't matter.
One sentence.
Doesn't make it any less true.
Absolutely.
He could have been talking about gardening for most of it. I don't give a crap.
What he's hiding from is all of that kind of stuff that would have come out yesterday, and he would have had to say it under oath, which would have contradicted what he was given before, the past four. But all this other money stuff, like I just told you, this $23 million investment here, then it turns into $1.55 billion. How much is in his pocket now out of that $1.55 billion?
Hey, exactly. I mean, at the heart of this is money.
Of course.
Money and vanity and ego, and control. All the worst aspects of humans.
Everything you just described is satanic right there.
It is.
More Ware and Rima coming up. KTSA. Sunny and 100 a day. Right now, 78 KTSA.
Good morning. We are working an accident, 281 northbound. It's just past St. Mary's. Only the 2 center lanes open. Stop and go from 35, about a 15-minute delay. Northbound 35, Thousand Oaks up to Weidner. That's ongoing road work. 2 right lanes are closed. That's going to take you about 25 minutes to get through. You're going to slow down right around Walsham. Northbound 35, Eisenhower to 410. That's rolling stop and go. 410 eastbound Austin Highway to 35. 2 right lanes are closed. That's a 10-minute delay. Slow from Harry Worsbach. I'm Debbie Abby Alcacer, KTSA Time Saver Traffic.
Local voices, local issues, local impact.
Seeing the whole city come together.
News Talk 550 KTSA and FM 1071.
You know, unfortunately, I'm one of those guys that likes to put stuff off, and frankly, sometimes I put medical stuff off that I shouldn't, and I've been talking about some tooth pain I'm having. I got a broken tooth basically in my mouth, and so I'm going to be talking to my buddy Dr. Mark Havercorn about this because it is starting to cause me some discomfort. If you're having tooth pain like me, or maybe you have missing teeth, you're curious about dental implants, which are his specialty. Maybe you need your wisdom teeth taken out, whatever it might be. You need to talk to my buddy Dr. Mark Havercorn. He is all about transparency. As somebody who's gone through some medical stuff, you know how hard it can be to understand how much something is going to cost you because they add stuff on even after you finish. Not at River City Oral Surgery. All his pricing is published on the website. You can look it up again, no matter what you're looking at, whatever procedure, you can check it out and see exactly what's going to be expected of you. He also offers financing. He's not part of a big corporate chain, and he's always here. So call him up. You don't need a referral. 210-778-0002, or look him up online for those prices, rivercityoms.com.
Don't miss the sizzling summer sale going on now at Crestview RV. Brand new travel trailers for just $250 a month with approved credit on select models and terms. Visit any Crestview RV location for all the hot details. Find a way to get away. CrestviewRV.com. Offers end August 30th. Restrictions apply.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 25% upfront bonus? And are they promising you up to 9% growth per year, all for your retirement income? If not, then you need to come to Trajan Wealth. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. And if you plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait, only to find out it's too late. I've seen hardworking folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They aren't. That's up to $25,000 upfront or up to $9,000 per year on $100,000, guaranteed for retirement income. Don't keep working when you're supposed to be retired, and don't let any financial advisor tell you it's too good to be true. Unlock your Trajan family office at TrajanWealth.com or call 1-855-TRAJAN-1. That's 1-855-TRAJAN-1.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. DBA in most states has Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Tired of overpriced blinds? Blindster makes custom blinds simple and affordable. You measure at home, install yourself, and save big. No retail store markups, just custom blinds guaranteed to fit. Blindster.com.
This is Mark Sadowski for Mark Sadowski Jewelers. Is your jewelry in good repair? Do you have rings that are out of shape or with stones that are loose or missing prongs? Do you have chains or bracelets that need attention or stones that need replacing? Mark Sadowski Jewelers wants to help. Bring your jewelry to us and we'll save you 20% on the cost of the repair. We'll even give you 20% discount on the diamonds up to 20 points that need to be replaced. Don't risk losing a stone or even worse, a bracelet or a neck chain. At Mark Sadowski Jewelers, we believe in preventing loss. Another common problem is our rings tend to shrink. I think that's something to do with being too close to Mexican food. We can resize your rings so they fit properly and comfortably. Come in now and save 20% on your repair just for asking. Mark Sadowski Jewelers, a family tradition in San Antonio for 90 years on Northwest Military Highway. Call us at 210-377-1818. That's 210-377-1818.
San Antonio's most listened to news talk station, 550 KTSA and FM 1071.
Ware, Rima, KTSA.
Red Baron frozen pizzas are coming up on their 50th anniversary.
That's a long time.
I didn't know. I saw that story yesterday, and at first I'm like, frozen pizzas have been around for 50 years. I'm like, well, yeah. You remember frozen pizzas when you were a kid, right?
Of course.
I'm 58. And
but this brand's been around 50.
Brand's been around for 50 years.
The concept's been around a long time.
Oh yeah. But they're going to offer up a special pizza that's got something. It's got 50 toppings on it.
Yes,
which is interesting. And I love.
Are you going to eat it?
Oh yeah, we get Barron's. We do the frozen pizza thing at least one night a week.
Okay, but when you get the one with the 50.
I'll try it.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
I love I actually sometimes prefer frozen pizza over real fresh pizza.
I told you that's all we do.
Yeah. I don't know why, because I know it's got a lot of a crap load of preservatives. I know it's not healthy.
I don't know.
You can shove it into a Tupperware thing in the fridge, and that frozen pizza will last for like 4 or 5 days. I love frozen pizza.
The one we get is called Screaming Sicilian, and it comes in a brown box for that reason.
I've seen
it
that
doesn't
one.
have all those preservatives in it. And we do pepperoni. I like pepperoni and black olive.
Right.
You know where I got that?
Where?
Shakey's Pizza here on Austin
Shakey's.
Highway. You
The
remember
little balloon
Shakey's?
guys. Yeah, I remember.
Remember
I
that?
remember Shakey's. But I, frozen pizzas. God bless them. We tend to get Tony's or Barron's. I think about when I was a kid. I used to get the Mama Celeste, the little small personal pizzas they used to have. And I love frozen pizza. I am, Trey. I'm going on the air and just devoting a segment to my love of junk food. Jack Riccardi, we were doing a crosstalk about a week ago, and we were talking about food or nutrition, and he brought up, Sean, you eat out of a gas station. I don't want to hear. I do. I eat a lot of crap. I should probably eat a lot better than I do. But holy crap, I love frozen processed foods. I'm just being honest. It's like Bernie Moreno dropping the F-bomb yesterday. I'm wrapping my arms around the reality because I just want to be genuine. I want to be for reals, man. And I eat a lot of frozen pizza, and I eat a lot of processed food. I really do.
Well,
do you have so your favorite frozen pizza is what is it?
Screaming Sicilian.
Screaming Sicilian. Is that got the self-rising dough or something like that?
No, it's just, it's like any other, and it's
Right.
called Holy Pepperoni. It comes with the best pepperoni. It's covered in pepperoni, tons of pepperoni on it, lots of cheese, which I like both of those, and I throw my own black olives on my half. The other half gets jalapenos because Nancy likes jalapenos.
See, I like jalapenos on pizza.
I do too.
I'm actually not a big pepperoni guy. I don't really care much for. I'm a sausage guy.
Yeah.
But I've noticed.
No, here's my question for you.
That sounded funny. Actually,
No. Here's my question for you. Do you have a particular thing that you have to drink with pizza?
No, I'm a water drinker.
Okay.
Yeah.
I go back to Shakey's.
Right.
When we were kids, eating at Shakey's Pizza at least once a week, I always had root beer. So anytime I have Italian food, whether it's pizza, spaghetti, yesterday we had lasagna, okay, I have to have root beer with it.
Really?
Anything Italian, I have to have root beer with it.
Since we're talking about eating habits, you're going to think this is really odd because I suck down coffee and Big Red all the time, all day long.
We know.
When I eat, I can only drink water. Like, I cannot drink a soda with a meal.
I drink water all day.
How do you burp?
Oh, I burp very easily. I'm full of a lot of hot air.
Syria puts him over her shoulder.
She burps me.
Come here, baby.
She actually does. She actually has to burp me.
And he pukes on her bath.
No, she does have to burp me on occasion. I have reached
Ralph
that
needs
stage
a
in life.
Coca-Cola with everything.
I don't know why I can't do soda with food. So every time we go to a place that has one of these meal deals where you get the free soda, I always want to just get the hamburger because I don't like French fries and I don't drink the soda.
There was a place at Broadway and 410 years ago called Rudy's Root Beer, and it was a hamburger joint set up like the 50s. Buzz Roman, my friend, was the guy who came up with it. They had a giant 1956 Chevy up on a pole, and I actually did a radio show on top inside that car. But he came up with his own recipe for root beer.
Oh, really?
And you'd walk in, Sean. You'd walk in to order your burger, and one wall, the entire wall, was this gigantic freezer, and he kept the mugs inside there.
Yes.
So he'd pull that mug out, and that mug was solid ice. It was just totally frozen. And he'd put that root beer in there with his own concoction.
Right.
Oh, my Lord, oh, my Lord. It was
I used to love regular beer in frozen mugs, but I got away from that. I want to go back to kind of tie this into Big Pharma and all that. I absolutely agree. Even though I myself eat a lot of processed crap, I am totally in favor of what RFK Jr. is doing, Make America Healthy Again, because I do agree there is a relationship between Americans eating crap and Big Pharma wanting to load you up with meds that you then need.
So I brought you across the line on that one.
Well,
because I've always felt that way. Investing in all these fast food joints,
right?
Investing in preserved foods, lots of preservatives.
Yes. I just the way our relationship with junk food began, I don't discount the cultural factor of
I don't either.
Around the 50s or 60s, life just sped up, right? And then women went into the workforce, so people wanted faster food to get.
Of course, and like I always say, two things can be true.
Oh, sure,
so, one doesn't discount the other and doesn't have prominence over the other. You could just go back and see when they started to invest in food, we got fat.
Right.
And when we got fat, our arteries got clogged and our hearts went bad.
Why did you look at me right now?
I'm not looking at anybody. I'm just talking. I said, not anybody in the building. I can close my eyes and say it. And that was intentional so that they came up with all these drugs.
Well,
GLP-1, stick a needle in you, and boy, you're going to lose the weight. Blah, 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 blah.
If your business is making pills, you need people to take the damn pills.
That's it.
And we have pills. That's another aspect of American culture, I think, that's hurt us ultimately, is that we want quick fixes to stuff.
Why do you think?
So we want to take a pill and make it all go away.
Why do you think they want these kids to get on these tranny drugs? Because then they're going to have them forever. They have to stay on them when you get on it. All right, at Nightly Insurance Group, they're going to work with you to get 8:33. I want to get back to my Ryder Williams story. And
yes.
The video is now up on the KTSA Facebook page. Ryder Williams, 16 years old, first year as a lifeguard out in California. The seas are calm. Everything's good. 10-year-old Nathaniel walks up and goes out in the ocean. Everything's great. Then all of a sudden, boom, the seas turned angry. And when I mean angry, it was vicious. It was horrible. Huge waves, and they were bashing into the shores. You've all seen the videos like that. In fact, you want to see this video, it's on my X account at Trey Ware Show. So 16-year-old Ryder grabs his flotation device, and he radios in, I'm going in. He runs, just like those firefighters on 9/11. He runs into the storm. I mean, it's horrible. He finally, after fighting against these terrible currents that threaten his own life, he finally reaches the 10-year-old, and he's struggling and struggling and struggling and struggling to get him back. Every time he would make a couple of feet, he'd get tossed back out into the ocean, never letting go of the 10-year-old with the gigantic waves forcing them down under, having to hold their breath for seconds at a time. Finally, after fighting and fighting and fighting and struggling with the 10-year-old in his arms, he finally gets back to shore. A couple of other guys come up and help him out. One of the guys said, "Man, how did you do that?" And he said, "I was not going to let that kid go." Now, we talk a lot about kids in our society today and who they are and what they're doing and where the whole world is going to end up, but every generation has done that. But we need more Ryder Williams. You know what he did? You know how he celebrated this? He grabbed his flotation device and his radio and stood back in his lifeguard tower and rescued 5 more people that day from drowning. He's on his way to the White House. The president's inviting him to the White House for a high civilian award. He deserves it. We need to throw some sunlight on those guys when they do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And of older generations and younger generations, I mean, every generation kind of has its zeitgeist as far as what's the general vibe about. The 60s, it was all about protest, right? My generation, it was all about, blank you and irreverence. The younger Generation Z has its own things that people say, but a lot of it is way too broad to ever be true. You know what I mean? You can never really characterize an entire generation by the popular sentiments of who they are in any given moment. So I think in the younger generation,
but we do.
Of course we do.
I go back to what I said earlier about our grandparents. They said about our parents that rock and roll music is going because they were making the transition from the big band Frank Sinatra stuff to Elvis Presley.
Well,
and all that. It was like, it's got to destroy the world.
In Christ's time, I mean, it went on, and people looked at Jesus like he was a weird young guy. So that's kind of a function of being human beings in society. Is the older folks are always going to look at the younger folks and not quite get them. And some of it's a valid criticism and some of it isn't.
Todd Blanche.
Oh, yeah.
John Cornyn said May 26th was his day of liberation. You get to learn who the real John Cornyn is because he lost the primary to Ken Paxton here in the state of Texas. John Cornyn, one of the biggest rhinos you'll ever meet in your life. And that's a real shame because he didn't start out as a rhino, but he certainly is now. He's holding up the confirmation of Todd Blanche because, well, he's just doing it. He doesn't really he has this whole thing about the $1.7 billion settlement that goes to the people that the government had been weaponized against these people, and the president got this $1.7 billion fund, and then the fund was canceled, and now John Cornyn wants a signature on a piece of paper saying he's never going to bring it back. Last week it was something about funding in Africa. So every week John Cornyn has an excuse for holding up the Trump agenda. Of course, the big one they're doing is the Save America Act, and it's all because he has Trump derangement syndrome. The man who was on television for months on end trying to win the primary telling you, I love Donald Trump. He's my best friend.
He opposed Trump on the border stuff. I mean, we talked about gun rights stuff. But then when he needed to win an election, then all of a sudden he wanted Trump to be his bestest buddy and get him across the line. He just feels butthurt to me. You know what I mean? And that's what this is really all about. I mean, come on. This idea, this tax thing with him and Blanche is ridiculous.
I have a little bit of breaking news for you. There's a crime problem in Chicago.
No, really. When did this happen?
Do we need the breaking news sounder? There's a crime problem in Chicago, but they're going to fix it. Brandon Johnson, the mayor up there, has commissioned. Oh gosh, you know what? I think I have them somewhere. I have to try to pull this up. Oh yeah, I'm going to pull this up. I got to do this. So let's just get my focus here for just a second, because I think you need to hear it more than just me tell you about it.
This is them talking about how they're going to fix the crime problem in Chicago.
That's exactly right, because the crime problem, as we all know, I mean, every week they're killing people, right? Black on black crime. So many blacks are being killed by other blacks in Chicago.
Oh, that's so racist, Trey. How dare you say that?
I know. Well, calling me a racist. By the way, on the way home from work today, can you pick up the sheets? We're going to need them for Thursday night's meeting.
Yeah, I'll take them out to get ironed.
Thank you. Mine extra pointy. Thank you. A little extra starch.
In yours, huh?
But here we go. This is how we're fixing the crime problem in Chicago.
We are putting up these signs as an indication of what the consequences will be in any criminal actions on the CTA. We are hoping to deter crime and to encourage people to come forward if they are witnesses of crime. These signs are a message to all of our riders and employees that we are working together with the county states attorneys.
And what this is that's hard to understand. They have put up signs on all the subways in Chicago that say, violence will not be tolerated. We will prosecute you. Well, that's certainly going to end the crime problem in Chicago, don't you think? A sign? Because all violent criminals see a sign, and they certainly will live right.
It's every bit as stupid and pathetic as gun-free zones.
Well, that's right.
I mean, what do you think? This is a way for a politician to point to something and see, I'm doing something about crime, when you're actually not doing anything. And in fact, your own policies create it.
And in fact, on this feed, on my X account, somebody makes that comment and says, okay, that's just like advertising a gun-free zone. What do you think the bad guys are going to do? Co-owner of the WNBA Seattle Storm has now been fined, and I think there's something else they're going to do to her. Her name is Celeste Keaton. Now, this goes to this whole thing that's been going on with the girls, and the problems, and the Caitlin Clark, and, of course, Sophie Cunningham. These teenage girls went to the game the other night, and they had a sign that said, thank you, Sophie, for speaking up for girls, because Sophie Cunningham, beyond the whole pointing thing, has been saying boys should not be allowed in girls' sports. She said, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican, but I'm telling you it doesn't make any sense for boys to be playing in girls' sports.
And that she has nothing against the trans community.
No, she said that too. I got nothing against trannies. I don't care. She said, but these girls had this sign, thank you, Sophie, for speaking up for girls. Well, the co-owner of the Seattle Storm goes over, and she berates these little girls with F-bombs and everything else. You should be ashamed of yourselves and all that kind of stuff. And here's the girls telling the story.
We were just sitting there with their signs that said,
these are just teenage girls.
We love Sophie. Thank you, Sophie, for speaking up. And so we were holding them, just watching the game. Again, we were being super great. We hadn't said anything to anyone else. We were being super respectful. We were just holding our signs and cheering for both teams. And this older lady comes up to us. And at first I think she's going to be nice. And then she asks, what are you guys doing? Something like that. And then it was like...
And I don't want them to use the word, so maybe they will or maybe they won't. I won't know. But the point is, the very wealthy co-owner of a WNBA basketball team finds two teenagers holding a sign, thank you, Sophie, for standing for girls. You should be ashamed of your words I won't use. You'll use them, but I won't use them.
Well, not in front of kids. Well, I mean, to our previous conversation, these are kids.
Right.
You're going up. You're a grown-ass adult. You're going after kids dropping that because you don't like their damn signs? Look, and the only reason people react badly to a sign or to a bunch of words in any way, shape, or form is because something about those words makes them uncomfortable.
Well, that's exactly what the gospel does to people. It brings them under condemnation. Okay, now.
Well, I mean, but again, pointing out, Sophie, by lifting her up, you're kind of exposing the hypocrisy of how Caitlin Clark is treated.
Michael Posh, 29 years old. And I haven't heard anything from Javier on this yet, but maybe we will. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. So it's very possible I missed his comments on this. He was the guy that they found wrapped in plastic on Sunday in that closet of that house. And Javier's first comment, because I was watching it live online, because he's got to do them all live online. He's got to go out live.
I don't see as many of his stupid little videos as I used to.
Or at a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, singing a mariachi song.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, his first response to that was, we don't think he killed himself and then wrapped himself in plastic, although that's possible, and we're going to look into whether or not He killed himself and then wrapped himself in
That's
plastic.
what we were talking about Monday, right? We were saying
we were
if
going,
there's
how
a
stupid.
big tube of cling wrap, he
right.
could have wrapped himself in it.
Right. After he killed himself, after he was dead.
Yeah, I think he said something effective, we haven't determined yet if it's suspicious or not. It's like the guy's wrapped in freaking plastic in a closet, dude.
And he's dead.
Yeah, that's a little suspicious.
And he was dead before he was wrapped in the plastic. It's not. It wasn't like sometimes these people do these weird kink things where they'll wrap themselves in plastic, and sometimes they asphyxiate themselves. But that's not what this was. No, it's true. It happens.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
What a way
true.
to go.
It's true. It's really sick. But anyway, they have blood. There was blood everywhere. Okay, the other couple they arrested for cleaning up the blood and so on and so forth. So it's pretty clear to our great law enforcement official for Bexar County that this was a murder and somebody wrapped him in plastic. Well, the ME finally said that yesterday. Yeah, this was a murder. This was a homicide.
He was saran wrapped.
He was stabbed like I don't know how many times. There's all kinds of stabbings.
Right.
So he didn't stab himself to death and then wrap himself in saran wrap. That doesn't work that way. Sorry. It was trash bag, I
was
think.
the question whether or not the person had actually been murdered or they just died and they tried to conceal the body?
Yeah, no, the first time he talked about it, he was like, I'm not sure he killed himself because it was always clear that something violent had happened. Like he might have stabbed himself to death.
When
Something like
he
that.
was talking, was he saying that we don't know if they were murdered or if they've been somebody just died and they tried to
That's
hide the
not how
body?
he put it.
I didn't see the actual press
You want
conference.
my
so-
Law and Order opinion?
Yes.
I think it was a Sancho got caught situation.
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Oh, you just say
Allegedly.
opinion. That's okay. You did
That's
say
my
opinion.
opinion.
Yes, right. That's right. So,
That's my Law and Order. Dun, dun.
Call Elaine at 210-555-1212.
It's lurid as hell, one way or the other. There's a dead guy wrapped up in plastic.
And they tried to clean it up.
And they tried to clean it up.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But
wrap it up.
But again, Javier, he didn't kill himself and then wrap himself in plastic. That's a bit. That's a. If you can pull that one off, that's a movie of the week right there.
He's another one who unfortunately has just gotten so political and so into the fame trip that it's unfortunate.
You know what? You're right. He's no different than a Bruce Springsteen, okay, who gets a TDS, whose job is something completely different than commenting on politics. Leave that to us because that's what we get paid for.
That's what we do.
You're supposed to take care of Bexar County and people who have been violated with crime. Do that. Don't be worrying about who the next president is going to be. Or, remember, his number one job for months on end was trying to prosecute Ron DeSantis. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
That was insanity.
Remember that?
Yes,
I'm going to go arrest the governor of Florida. No, dude. Figure out what happened at Inagua Springs.
And I love the guy, and we were, friends. But once you got to that point, it became really indefensible. It's like, what do you want me to say, man? You're trying to arrest the governor of another state.
Like, stick to your sandbox and wonder why people are being wrapped up in plastic
in
closets.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stick to your sandbox.
All right, let me tell you about M&G Bank. They're just It's 8:52. This is my girl at 5 feet tall and about 88 pounds. Treat me right. It's Pat Benatar. Sing it, Trish. What you laughing at? What's
you and Christian, you just love talking up songs. It's funny to me because I haven't done it in so many years, but it's just you're very good at it as far as hitting the post there. And what that means is he stops talking when the person starts singing. It's old school radio stuff.
I still do it in the car.
Do you really?
Oh yeah, I still hit post on old songs.
I used to, but then my wife was like, "Could you stop doing that? Just let the song play."
You know what I want the boss to do one weekend?
What?
I want him to bring back all the old KTSA jocks and let us do that for a week. I'm not kidding you.
Are they still alive? Who's
oh my God.
Who's alive?
Trey just wants to work 7 days a week.
Yes. That's right. No, just one weekend. Have a special weekend with the KTSA throwback weekend.
An anniversary of some sort.
Yes.
What do we have coming up? 115 years or something?
Yes. So we all know Steve Sellers. Bring him back. We got Mark Carrillo. Bring Carrillo back here. Bring Hector Reyes and Sonny Rio back in, and we'll all throw down, man. We'll be playing the tunes all week. What's wrong with that?
That's
nothing wrong with that.
That's a good idea. And we'll get it sponsored. We'll get
Even
Dr.
better.
Habercorn to pay for it.
Get it sponsored by Insurer.
That's right.
Evolve
And the little blue pill.
Medical group.
Dr. Sally here in Texas. What else do these old
Evolve.
grumpies
for
need?
old jocks.
That's right. Exactly. See, y'all are catching on to this. Could be a big deal.
Come on, sales. Get it together.
Let's
That's
go,
right.
baby.
I'll tell you who's getting it together. Donald Trump did a presser yesterday about revamping Dulles Airport, which it sorely needs. It's a horrible airport. And I didn't fly in and out of Dulles a great deal. For me, it was pretty much always BWI or Ronald Reagan, just when I was a kid, growing up. But one of the aspects of Trump derangement syndrome is the endless screaming and stomping of the feet. Oh, he's destroying the White House, and oh, look what he's destroyed the reflecting pool. Okay, as somebody who grew up in that area, okay, D.C. has looked like ass for a very long time. And he's the Arts of War sculptures at the Arlington Memorial. He's revamping and restoring.
Did you see them?
They're gorgeous. They've never looked that good as long as I've been freaking alive.
I want to see what he's going to do with Abe.
Abe Lincoln needs it. Look, that memorial desperately needs it.
I know. I'm going to see what he was going to do. I don't need a gold Abe. We don't need gold.
No, it's like he needs to pull back at the gold LeMay once in a while.
But shine it up a little bit.
Well, the granite's getting old, and the pressure causes cracks, and this is supposed to be the shining or the jewel in the crown of America. This is our nation's capital.
And I would be fine changing the name from Dulles to something else.
I haven't really thought about that at all. But
the whole 1963 and the Warren Report and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And he doesn't deserve to have an airport named after him.
Name
it the Trump Airport.
But there you go. But as an airport, it sucked for a long time. It's a horrible.
It's
I flew in there. Last time I flew in there was about 2015.
I refuse to go into there.
Also, he has made that town dramatically more safe. I know a lot of people who live in D.C., and they've told me. I mean, I grew up in an era, during the course of my life. I remember once I went to a concert in D.C. I know I've told you this story. And I was driving around D.C. at like 2 in the morning after the concert. And I pulled into and I got lost. It's extremely easy to get lost in the district. And I ended up at a gas station. Two cops came up to me and said, "Where are you going?" I told them where. I said, "We're going to escort you out of this neighborhood because this is an extraordinarily dangerous. You're in a very dangerous place right now."
There is, from where we sit, about 2.5 miles right up this road, there is a place called the Glen that the same thing is true. The same thing is true. You get near there, and the Bexar County Sheriffs will say, "Don't go in there. Don't go in there."
Point being, D.C. has been an extremely dangerous place for a very long time.
Well, interesting you brought this up because we don't plan this, but Caroline Levitt just put this up.
Oh, yeah? What's this?
Just now. In the first half of 2026 versus the same period last year, Homicides are down 18%, on pace for the lowest level in at least 126 years.
Yeah.
Carjackings are down 47%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 20%. Robberies are down 17%. Residential burglaries are down 13%. Law and order is back in the USA, and there's one man to thank for that.
Well,
one
yeah,
man.
I mean, he really has, and Law and Order. Hey, wow, what's wrong with that? If you have law and order, you can live your life, okay?
Ask a Democrat, because they'll tell you.
Oh, of course. So
any of the other Democrats presidents could have done this, and they did
if
not.
they had, the very same people would be worshiping at their feet.
More Ware and Rima coming up, KTSA.
Think of your portfolio like a recipe. Every ingredient has a purpose, and too much of one thing can throw everything off.
Well, the war is continuing, and
yep,
we had some big strikes last night, and we're not really sure at this point how successful we were versus how many of their missile sites did we take out. What is absolutely shocking is this this breaking news that I had for you this morning. The Admiral Cooper had a plan to demolish Iran's missiles in 14 days that he was going to present to President Trump, which is shocking to me in that we have not taken out all of their missile sites already and all of their drone sites already. Listen, that's the first thing you do. You destroy their ability to launch anything back at you by taking them out utterly and completely, and you don't stop until that's the case. That's why I've been wavering on this action here lately, and you and I had a pretty lengthy discussion about it yesterday in between all the Fauci stuff, because I want this to be done, and I want him to take care of business, and I want the president, he had his boot on the neck of the Iranians, and he let it up for whatever reason. I don't know what the phone call was. I don't know. At one time he said, I was told we were going to have a worldwide depression if I kept doing what I was doing. But it seems to me that now, and there's a piece in the New York Post I was telling you about this morning, an editorial piece, that now this going back and forth and wavering is giving people the idea that there's no real plan to this, that it's kind of fly by the seat of your pants. And now we're getting some very disturbing news that I told you about this morning concerning China. But here's the president yesterday on this.
In the meantime, we're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming. They're asking us not to do it. But, they tried shooting it last night. So we had 5 rockets shot going 8,500 miles an hour. And all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground. But they nevertheless took a shot. So it's our turn. And we'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point. But we're going to hit them.
I told you this morning my reaction to our turn. Because
I had a reaction, too. I was like, that's interesting language.
Well, that's not how you do this. With all due respect, and I'm not a war fighter guy, but with all due respect, to me, if I get in a fight, I'm just thinking personally, okay? I'm not going to go punch. Now it's your turn to punch me. To hell with that. You ain't going to get a chance. I'm not giving you a chance to launch one at me. I'm going to come and keep coming at you until you're down and you can't get up again. That's kind of what I think fighting a war is. You don't go, okay, here, boom, now you hit me. Now, boom, now you hit me.
It was very interesting language. And I remember when I was watching the Dulles Airport presser, and that's when he was saying this stuff afterwards during the Q&A. He said, well, it's our turn, and I that's the first time I'd heard him use that kind of language. And, yeah, it felt a little weird in war fighting that, it harkened back to the idea of the original British Army, where you'd have a lobby of, or you'd lob a bunch of, musket balls, and you'd wait for the other guys to shoot, then you'd shoot back. It just was odd. It's like that we're allowing them a turn, then I guess they get a turn, then we get a turn.
But see,
which just doesn't make any sense.
Well, of course it doesn't make any sense because you're not going to give the other guys a chance to kill your people. That's what I say. Is like, okay, you don't get a turn. I'm going to prevent you from ever getting a turn ever again to protect my people, because every time we give them a turn and they launch a missile, there's a potential we're going to lose one of our American fighters, and they're already in a dangerous position anyway. And now China is giving them, they bought, but 400 of these man pads, and this is not some Afghani guy with a turban on in the mountains of Afghanistan with one of those things that's just kind of haphazard. These things are the latest, greatest, state-of-the-art. They come from China. They can go around our systems that we have from our jet fighters, infrared, electronic stuff that's supposed to throw off their homing devices. They can detect that, and they can defeat that. These are serious rocket launchers from the shoulders of these guys that are now going from China over there. To me, you don't give them a turn, because if you give them a turn, that means you're giving them a chance to kill Americans, and I ain't into that, baby.
Yeah, again, it was kind of a weird choice of language, even though, in a sense, it has certainly felt that way. It is. Maybe there was a little dissonance in my head over that, and that in my mind I've been thinking, well, now they're up, now we're up. He just kind of used the actual language. It's their turn or our turn. And I don't know what's going on. Most of us don't know what's going on. But certainly you're not unreasonable at this point if you're looking at this back and forth and wondering, is there an end game here? Is there a line that they cannot cross? We keep hearing from the president, their Navy's at the bottom of the ocean. They got nothing. We've devastated them. We've got the most powerful military in the world. We don't need anybody else to help us. Well, then why is this rotation going on where we bomb them for a little while, then we stop? They say, there's going to be an agreement. There's no agreement. My problem is all of this, if you and I can figure it out, most people are looking at this can figure it out. Certainly they knew going into this that they weren't going to agree to anything.
Okay.
You can't be diplomatic with these people at all.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second.
So why are we going back
let's talk
and
about that
forth?
for a second, because I've been saying that for weeks now. I've been saying you cannot talk to these people, and they're stringing him along. And I know that there's a lot of resistance to that because he's Donald Trump, and Donald Trump can't be strung along. They're stringing him along like they've done to every other president. Yesterday, Robert Harward, who is a retired vice admiral of the Navy, and General Jack Keane, everybody's seen him if you watch Fox for 5 minutes, he's always on. Iran will never make a deal. They are stringing him along. These their words, two separate shows apart from each other. They weren't on the same show. You got to bomb away their ability. This is their stuff. Their ability to launch missiles and drones, and you've got to take the strait and open it wide open. These guys are exactly right on with what needs to be done to solve this. And this business about, okay, we're going to take a shot at you, and you take a shot back at us. Well, I know it's beating a dead horse, but that's where we are in this, and that's unacceptable. Because you don't want to give them a chance to kill any more Americans, so you're not going to get a chance to hit back at me.
Well, of this business of being strung along, okay, he's already said, they're trying to wait me out. You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm saying is, obviously he's aware of the idea of them trying to prolong this, and obviously he's aware that they're not going to agree to anything. That's what makes it kind of strange, and that's where I want, because it's so out of his character to not anticipate. And he stated himself that he knows all of this stuff. So that's what I can't figure out. Then what's the plan? I don't believe there is no plan. I don't believe he's in a quagmire. He's making choices, but why is he making those choices? I don't know.
It's getting very quagmire-ish and very World War-ish as well, because China's sending them stuff. We know already that Russia is through ships, and that's why Ukraine is fighting Russia on our behalf, trying to stop those ships from getting to Iran now, blowing up Russian ships. It's very World War-ish, and it's very quagmire-ish. It's beginning to look that way, and he can't do that. When those man pads hit Iran, our guys in the airplanes have to completely change their strategy. They won't be able to go in as close as they can now, and all this video footage we see of being very precise and knocking that stuff out, they won't be able to do that. They're going to have to stay farther away from these very potentially deadly missiles. And I pray to God we don't lose any guys, but this thing will fall in on him if they start knocking our planes out of the air. I'm not saying they're going to, and I pray that it doesn't happen, but if that starts to happen, this thing falls in on Trump, and he's done.
Yeah, my only point is he's aware of all this, so I don't, why we have the back and forth, I don't understand.
Well, call him up and ask him, because he's the only one who can answer it.
I don't know.
He's the only one who can answer it.
Again, I don't know. It's hard to have, it's one of those situations where it's hard to really come to a hard conclusion one way or the other because there's just not enough information. He stated on a number of occasions everything that you and I are saying right now.
Well, of course, yes, of course.
So that meaning he's not unaware of that.
Right. And let me make a sports analogy. Would you mind?
No, I don't
permission
care.
to make a sports analogy.
No.
Permission to make a football analogy.
No, I don't care.
Jimmy, I got a football analogy. So the whole point when you're on offense is to try to stay on offense. You want to keep your offense on the field as long as possible because you don't want the other guy to score, right? And so particularly if you're ahead, there's a thing called sitting on the lead, where you will try to run the clock out and eat up as much clock as you can. So if the other guy gets back on offense, he doesn't have enough time to strike and come back and win the game. So the idea is to hang on to the ball. It's called possession football, called possession play. And so what Trump is saying here and the way he's been executing this thing is, okay, I'm going to run 3 and out. I'm going to punt the football, and then you get a chance to run 3 and out,
Well, yeah.
or even more. You get a chance to score. And scoring for them means Americans die. And the whole point is to never let them get on offense. We stay on offense the entire game, and we run this sucker up to 70 points to your 3 or whatever.
It's basic Sun Tzu stuff too. It's like if you have the higher ground, you have the advantage. You don't give it up to the opposing enemy.
That's it
and
right
say,
there.
Yeah, if you have the advantage, you continue until your enemy can't respond anymore, whether that's the higher ground or just a military advantage.
You mentioned the English thing a minute ago. This is not an old duel where, okay, I'm going to take a shot at you. Oops, I missed. Now you get a shot at me. No.
One of the reasons we're sitting in this country right now is because of the way the British fought. The British would lob, they had this very meticulous and genteel way of fighting a war. And we went guerrilla on them, which is how we won, basically, because you could anticipate what the British were going to do because they stuck to these genteel ways of fighting war.
Now, the only thing that may factor into your question as to why is he doing this? He knows all this. Why is he doing it? Center for Strategic International Studies released a report last night. We had 2,700 Patriot missiles and defensive missiles. Okay, they're called THAADs in the Patriots now. We now have 1,000. 1,000. We have used up 2/3 of our defensive missiles over there. In fact, we're down 65% of the Patriot missiles that are there to protect what he's talking about here, where we knock these rockets coming in at 8,500 miles an hour. Iran is still lobbing daily strikes. These THAAD interceptors are down 38%. The Patriots are down 65%. They're $3.9 million each, and it takes 2 years to build them. If the Center for Strategic International Studies is correct about this, which they have a pretty good track record of knowing this stuff, if that's true, that's the only thing I can figure as to why every once in a while he takes a day off or a couple of days off. I don't know.
He's running out of crap.
Right. Munitions. And he says we're not. I mean, he said,
he
no,
said
we're
that
not.
just last week.
But
yeah.
all these think tanks and the urgency of Pete Hegseth last week in front of the Senate says to me that, yeah, maybe we are, because he was like, I need some money now. I got to buy some stuff. So if that's the case, maybe that's why we're soft pedaling this thing right now instead of taking it to the brink and burying these.
We need more bullets. I mean that in a metaphorical way. We're running out of stuff, and we got to pause for a second while we rearm, in a sense.
And that could be it. But and again, we don't know.
That would make sense, though.
But
a lot about what he's doing and saying would make sense if that were the case.
This thing, according to all the experts, shouldn't have gone on for 5.5 months. These guys should have been buried about a week into this thing or 2 weeks into it.
Yeah, but we were saying when it first broke out, we were going with World War II went on for this long, and Afghanistan went for 20 years.
That was a totally different model.
Right.
This thing is this should have been handled like in no time at all. World War II was a different time.
Yeah, but
and
you and I were on the air when Trump was saying that.
I understand.
Saying, well, don't be patient. It's going to take some more time.
Sure, for the totality of it to work. But as far as taking out their missiles and their ability to do what they're doing right now, that could have been over in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And we wouldn't be in a position now where our guys in Jordan are getting blown up.
Well,
on a daily basis.
We'll see what happens,
and listen, it's not shaking my faith and trust and love for Donald Trump. This guy is great, okay? It's not at all. I'm just questioning what we're doing by doing I'm going to hit you, now you can hit me. You ain't going to get to hit me.
I don't get that at all. Like, I stopped when I heard the usage of the word turn. It's their turn or our turn yesterday, too. I think a lot of people did. It's like, I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break. More Ware and Rima coming up. KTSA. Going to be sunny, 100 today, 79.
Not reeling, I guess. Watching Fauci yesterday, obviously that was a big story that we covered, and we're still now we're kind of in a holding pattern to see what happens next if they vote to hold him in contempt. We aired some Rand Paul a little earlier live on Fox News. You and I were talking a few weeks ago in the lead up to this, and certainly we've talked about it today, that he doesn't have a legal argument for pleading the fifth because you cannot incriminate yourself against a crime that you cannot be charged with because you have immunity. But, just sort of on an emotional, visceral level, watching Fauci sit there, and again, I thought Moreno was great. I thought Hawley was great in the way they kind of got into his face, and, a lot of it's theatrics, obviously, but it was theatrics that I truly enjoyed. Because I've asked that question myself. Who the blank did you think you were? And I haven't read the entire 1,000-page diary. I don't need to. I've read enough of it to know that the guy is an absolute narcissist and fame hog. I think you're right. We talked about this. We agree that there's a lot of money behind this stuff as far as the vaccine, how that came about. But really what you saw on display yesterday by his silence, but you could see it in his eye, is the extreme arrogance and ego of this guy. And it reminded me, if this makes sense, Trey, that, wow, that really did happen. We really did go through all that. We really were told what to do. We really were told where we could go. We were told how far to stay apart from each other. You still see places that you go into now that have the plastic plexiglass shields between you and the cash register, the cashier working the thing. We are still dealing with effects of COVID, not just with businesses that closed. I mean, in this town, we talk about the restaurants that shuttered, family-owned places, privately owned places that are never coming back again. But you think about this argument about, I want a 4-day work week, or I want to work from home. We talk about the kids and how they were screwed over with their education. My kid was that age who, from the time she was pretty much entering high school all the way through college, her life as a theater major, of all things, was really affected because she couldn't do theater. They had to come up with different ways to conduct classes. And the impact of those few years I don't think we've even begun to really understand how it altered the way we live fundamentally. I don't know that they'd be able to pull it off again. I don't know if you'd be able to pull off again if we had another national crisis or international crisis where the government has to roll in and start telling people what to do. I don't think they could pull it off again like they did that first time.
They would.
They would try.
They would, because there are so many people out there that if the government says it, it's the truth, and they will follow the government to hell.
Well, and that's plainly obvious to me by the people I'm seeing on social media who are still defending Fauci.
If you go to the X account, Sean, you're going to see the ridiculousness of that time, stuff that people who, if you had a rational mind, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, if you had a rational mind, you knew it was stupid. I'm sitting here looking at these kids who are playing band instruments at school, like saxophone and clarinet and all that, and their faces are completely covered with plastic except for the little hole where the reed goes in. Okay?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
The whole, but see, that was the big deal. You had people that were wrapped in plastic, totally wrapped in plastic, and their babies were being handed to them while they were wrapped in plastic.
I mean, I knew the masks were crap the first time I had to wear one and my glasses fogged up.
Same
it's
here.
Like, oh, come on, man.
Same here. I think we all went through that.
Trump even mentioned yesterday, and this was true, and I bring this up a lot, at the very beginning of the COVID era, okay, Anthony Fauci himself was front and center saying the masks don't work. In fact, they encourage you to touch your face. And then at some point, very magically, that went away, and he became obsessed with the masks.
But he went back and forth on it. Because he went back to, no, it doesn't work.
It was different kinds of masks.
And then he went back to, oh, no, but now put 4 of them on.
Right.
And how many boosters do you need, remember?
Yeah.
Because it suddenly turned into, you got to have a booster every month. That's where you went, okay, somebody getting rich, and it's you, Anthony Fauci, because now you're pushing a monthly booster? Are you kidding me? Come on.
And I'm looking at the guy yesterday, and again, it was a really interesting look in his eye when he had his eyes open at all or was looking up. in that you saw that weird mix of supreme arrogance and narcissism combined with, I think, genuine fear, especially when Moran kicked his lawyer out. You could see that Anthony wasn't all that comfortable anymore. I don't know if anything's going to happen to him. I think the guy should spend the rest of his life in a cage. I mean, we were talking earlier, if you can bring him up on contempt of Congress or contempt, that he could do a year. But the damage that has already been done to this country has already been done to this country.
200,000 mom and pop small businesses gone.
Yeah.
And that means their dreams are gone. That means those workers were without a job, completely gone. So China had all kinds of motivations. They hated Donald Trump, number one, so they wanted to affect the election, which they did.
Well, he was going after with the trade agreements back then. At that point, he was isolating China when this all happened.
Gave the Democrats a chance to cheat the election, which is exactly what they did, but also crashed our economy, okay? Our stock market went way down. The entire economy crashed into a smoking heap because, look, you couldn't work. You had to shut down all of these businesses. You shut down everything in the country, and the economy crashed. That was to China's advantage. I want to know if okay, I'll just tell you. I want to know if Anthony Fauci and those people were on the take from China. Well, if they were greasing their palms.
My belief to this day is that it was a partnership between China and people in this country
of course it was.
To end Donald Trump's presidency.
And to affect our economy,
Right.
which is exactly what they did. More Ware and Rima coming up. KTSA.
Right now, with the purchase of a Connecticut,
9:32, we're wearing Rima KTSA. So, my brother.
Yes.
To answer your question about whether or not they're going to be able to do this again, or would they be able to pull it off again? Absolutely, they would. 100%, they would be able to do it again. Remember, we're sort of in an echo chamber here, and we get all this information, and we share this information among generally conservative listeners, conservative audience. I like to call many of us patriots because we hearken back to the founding of this country. We believe in freedom. But for the vast majority of Americans who don't consume this type of media on a regular basis, they're told a completely different story.
Right.
I've shared with you over and over again how right now they're getting a completely different story about Anthony Fauci and the lockdowns. Right now, as we sit here, their media, whether it's Morning Joe or ABC News and the Good Morning America people or whoever, they're telling them something completely opposite of all that, and people who consume that, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are getting their information and their news from online, whether it's social media, and they live in their own echo chamber of their own people who are like-minded, who don't step out of their own echo chamber, and so they're fed a certain amount of information that would reinforce to them Fauci was right all along. He saved a bunch of lives. What's that, Christian? What were you going to say?
Go ahead. Then I'm going to interject when you're done.
Okay.
Well, what I was going to say, and I think when I say they could never pull that off again, they could never pull that off again with you and I. They could never pull that off again with a lot of people who saw at the time was like, this feels weird. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to get me to take a vax or a booster or put on the freaking mask or socially distance.
Never again.
Or anything like that.
No, sir.
As far as the people you're talking about, they're idiots, and they are in that echo chamber, and they're very low-info people. And as long as the right people are telling them what to do, they'll do absolutely what they're told to do.
And that's what I'm trying to say, is that, yes, they will be able to shut down the country again if they have another Anthony Fauci moment where a guy is going to be able to stand up and say, this is what you need to do because otherwise grandma's going to die, your kid's going to die, and all these things that they threatened everybody with. People, they buy off on that stuff because that's where they live. They don't live in our world. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I don't think they'd pull it off at all.
Oh, I do.
I don't.
Yeah,
I do.
They would.
They would.
Like, think about the military. Think about the people that lost their jobs.
Yeah, you think the military is going to turn around and buy it again?
That's what I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying the certain group of people.
I do.
As long as the right people are telling them to do stuff, they'll do it.
Absolutely.
Well, here's one thing I want to point out.
Absolutely, guys. Absolutely.
You're talking about the people who are hearing a different version of Fauci. Where are they hearing the different version of Fauci?
They're hearing it all in the mainstream media.
Exactly. That's my point. Mainstream media is going broke. Nobody's tuned in anymore.
Christian, maybe you missed what I said a second
point.
ago. They're getting it from social media, TikTok. They get a lot of news from social media, TikTok.
They're not mainstream media. They're not watching it on television.
But
They're
the
getting it all from
biggest-
social media.
Exactly. And
But
that's
the
what,
biggest content creators
back up 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
What I said was they're getting in social media and they live in their own echo chamber. They're on social media with like-minded people. Please listen to what I'm saying. They're listening on social media and watching social media with people who fit into their algorithm. It's very rare that somebody, think about your own social media. It's very rare that somebody from outside, and you have 2 or 3 friends on social media that you talk about, and I do too, but for the most part, you're around like-minded people. And so if you're around like-minded people and they are telling you the same thing, then you're gonna go right along with it.
I will jump in with this though, and we've kind of said this about Donald Trump before, in that people say it's a cult of personality. What's like? No, you know what? If Trump went weird on a couple of important issues, a lot of conservatives would dump him. The people I'm talking about are people who either are educated or not, but they're Democrats, they're liberal Democrats, and as long as a liberal Democrat is telling them what they should do, they will do it because they're still defending Anthony Fauci. They're still, as long as the Democrats and the Democrat media are telling them that. His point's fair, though, in that they are losing audience constantly.
No. Okay, I understand. And I said that same thing 10 minutes ago about the liberal media and them getting it from all those channels that I mentioned 10 minutes ago, that the liberal media is feeding them that stuff. But it goes beyond liberal media. It's their social network as well. It's not just online. It's not just media. It's people they hang out with. I run into this all the time. You tend to gravitate to like-minded people who share the same type of views with you.
Sure.
And if that's the case, The government could tell people, and they still have a lot of faith and trust in what the government tells them. I don't understand it, but they do. And so if the government says, this is going to wipe out our population, you have got to do this lockdown thing again, they could pull it off. Oh,
I don't know.
100% they could pull it off.
It depends on who the government is when they're saying it, though.
I agree.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
That's just inherent.
If a conservative, in other words, I think the conservative mindset, at least I feel like you and I are discerning. Okay, Trump just couldn't say it. You and I have just spent a half hour talking about Iran and how we're wondering what's going on and is he right here, is he wrong here? If he were a Democrat, Democrats wouldn't question anything he's doing.
That's the point.
That's
the point.
You could pull it off with those people.
That's
I
the
don't
point.
think you could pull it off on the scale they did.
I do. I really do, because they have so many people that are diehard believers and all of that. We live in this world of the media we consume and then the media we talk about, which is completely different than what the vast majority or a lot of people in America, and by the way, remember, worldwide. Okay, when you got France and you've got the UK and all these, your beloved Spain and all these others, you've got people that will buy off on this stuff in a heartbeat.
But you see what's happening in Europe, though.
Yeah.
I'll believe that when I see it. I know the numbers in Spain. I know. I've been watching that, but I'll believe that when I see it.
Go to Eastern Europe.
I have.
Full
when you're
rejection.
looking at Mamdani
full rejection.
And the success he has right now,
well,
and the DSA party.
That's kind of my point right there.
Exactly.
You've got the yeah. Go ahead.
But we have a billion reasons to question whether or not that's even a valid election because of mail-in ballots. That's now been canceled. Let's see how long Mamdani stays around.
Well, but Kristen, I understand what you're saying, but explain to me then all these other places where these folks have won. Now, I know
these are Democrat primaries.
Right.
Wait till, you know.
And I'm not saying necessarily Democrats, okay? What I'm saying is people that are, and I've been calling them sheeples for years because my friend Andrew Napolitano and I used to have that conversation. He wrote a whole book called Nation of Sheeples.
Yeah,
and so,
Rush Limbaugh used to call him sheeple and stuff
did he?
like that. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
So we're talking about a bunch of people that if the government tells them to do this, that, or the other, they do it. We're not in that world.
No,
I'm going to say this clearly. You ain't putting a mask back on my face. You're not putting a jab in my arm, and I'm not locking down. I'm done with all that.
There's a lot of people like that who aren't talk show hosts. I think the stupid who will do whatever a Democrat official will tell them to do will always do what they tell them to do. I don't think they could pull it off on the scale they did.
Yep, I agree.
Across the board.
I think they can. And it has nothing to do with that. You
I'm
guys
with you,
are
Elaine. I believe
more
that.
intelligent than the Democrats, or you guys have talk show hosts, or you guys have news on all the time. That I think that's an ignorant way to look at it.
Let me use you as an example real quick, okay? You have an immune compromised daughter you've talked about on the air, right? So
she had a double transplant. Yeah, right.
So how many people are like you that wouldn't have a choice if they said, man, we got to, let me just finish. Man, we got to lock down because this thing is spreading like crazy. You couldn't sit there and say, I ain't putting a mask on and I ain't locking down. You, as you said, you took the jab because of your daughter.
Well,
you said that an hour ago.
I took the jab because I couldn't see a doctor unless I took the jab also.
All right, but an hour ago you said because of your daughter. So
well, it was partially because of her.
I'm not picking on you.
I know you're not, Trey.
What I'm saying is that there's a lot of people out there that are in the same type of situation that they wouldn't have a choice. They'd have to go along.
So what
with
about all the guys that you talk about constantly who you say, you know, they're keeping their powder dry and they're watching what's going on and they're really not liking the Constitution being trod upon. They're not liking the communist thing. Okay, we talk about this people in America who are going to reach a point where they're going to have had enough.
We'll see.
Could you get those people to do the COVID trip all over again?
Maybe. I don't know, Sean.
What if your job depends on it?
Your job won't depend on it because it's been ruled it's unconstitutional. They pulled that off once. They can't do it again.
Okay.
They could try.
Hopefully, at the end of the conversation, hopefully we never freaking have to find out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was just about to say,
right.
is that if I pray that we never have to go down that road ever again, but if we do, there's going to be enough people that will go along with it. I believe that they're going to try something crazy, but I don't know if it's going to be war, if it's going to be a pandemic again, I have no idea. But, you know, there's going to be people that have to make their own personal choices, and when it gets at the end of the day, we can have all these highfalutin things about you ain't knocking me down again, you ain't doing that to me. But if the rubber meets the road and you got to bring home the paycheck and the boss says you will get that or you're not coming to work, you're not going to have a job if you don't do it.
So
or,
does that include you? You just said you're never getting the job again.
I'm not. I will go home.
Right.
If this place told me you have to get a shot, okay, we're done.
See, I'd have to because I need the gig. I'm just being honest with you.
No,
I wouldn't have the option to say, well, no, I'm not going to get it.
That's what I mean.
And that's you just proved my point.
Well, okay,
what you just said.
You're right. Yeah.
The
I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying this is what I'm trying to say is there's going to be enough people in that camp.
I know that.
Yeah.
But to me, it was so new. And nobody in our generation had ever experienced anything like this before on that scale.
We all bought off on it.
I don't know to what extent you could do that again, okay, with everybody to the extent they did.
Agreed.
That's all I'm saying.
And I think the numbers of those who would sit it out and not participate would be higher if they ever tried it again, but they would still be able to pull masses of humanity.
But I really think it's stupid people. I think they could pull that off with a lot of stupid people as long as the right people are telling them what to do.
Remember, we got real close to arrests. In fact, I just saw a picture from those days, and there was a couple sitting on a beach all by themselves.
Sure.
Nobody around them. They're on a beach. Wind blowing, so if you sneeze or you farted, it'd blow it away from you.
Well,
but there's a guy, here's my point. There's a guy with a big long gun standing there going, get off the beach.
Right.
That's where if you're in that situation.
That's what Josh Hawley said yesterday about the woman at the softball or baseball game.
Right.
They got arrested and dragged out of the stadium.
Exactly.
Nuremberg said he couldn't charge his way out of the problem, but he wished he could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the next time they try this, that's what they're going to be doing.
Well,
they're like China. Remember those videos of China running up and grabbing people and hauling them off the street, or welding the doors to their apartment building shut so they couldn't walk out? Remember those? That's where they would be the next time. They would take
the black guy
step.
that we were just playing the audio from in D.C.
God bless
him.
him.
You get that guy, and that guy's not living in, he's
right.
whatever. He's not consuming
That's
a
right.
certain media. Could you get that guy to do it again?
Nope. No, and he didn't do it the first time.
Right.
That's why I played him, because he's a patriot, man.
No, but it was a bunch of them. They went through a neighborhood. They talked to a bunch of people that day who all had the same reaction that guy had.
Right, but the numbers were still on the side of where.
But black people in New York largely didn't want the vax. Black people in New York, because I remember de Blasio was like, well, no, you better do it. Black people aren't getting the vaccine.
He offered them French fries.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Nothing racist about that.
Do you remember that?
Black people like fried food, Trey. So, if you offer them French
he
fries, I'll
did.
do
Bill
it.
de Blasio said, if you want free French fries, go get the vax. They were always offering something like that. That's not going to get that. That won't work again.
Well, like I said, ultimately, hopefully we don't have. I mean, they're not going to be able to pull it off with a pandemic again. They're going to have to come up with something different. I would agree with you if it was a national crisis or a global crisis of some of their making. I don't know that they could pull it off on the scale that they did with another pandemic.
Let me just finish it this way, with all due respect to everybody. I think we're a nation of followers and not independent thinkers anymore. I have lost. Now we think independently, and we think about freedom, and we think about 1776 and what that meant, and live free or die. We think about those kind of things. But the vast majority of America today doesn't think independently like that. They are followers. It's groupthink. It's follow along with the group.
Well, then why do they have to cheat elections?
Same thing. Same thing. It's group think, and that's what I think where we are today is that having an independent thinking. I mean, you talk about this too. People who actually think for themselves on their own, few and far between. It's like this: yes, master, where do I go? And they follow, and wherever that person is leading is where you're going to go. And so listen, they'll be able to pull it off. I don't know if it's a pandemic or not. I don't know if it's a bomb.
I think you'd have to have something different. I think you'd have to have some kind of different crisis.
Let me talk about Bjorn's. At Bjorn's, they Rima bringing in Jack Riccardi in our discussion, but before we bring him in, let's do
Before
this.
the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions.
And so, Jack, that right there is where it started for Anthony Fauci, according to Bernie Moreno. That's where he found out he was in deep stuff. Deep stuff.
While I was listening to that, I was thinking, that's really the bobblehead I want. Do they make a Tulsi bobblehead?
Do you still have your Fauci one like Tallarico does? Do you pull it out and play with it?
God.
Do you pull it out and play with it?
Do I pull it out and play with it is a sentence I never thought I'd hear on the Trey Ware show.
Just did.
Wow. Rima, you're a bad influence on him. He never used to talk this way.
It's all me, man.
He was a good boy when I knew him.
You know, let's talk about that for a second, because we had a discussion earlier about profanity and stuff, and, you know, I'm a pretty cussy guy off the air, and I absolutely loved the Moreno moment. I thought that was damn near performance art. It was just really that was a proper usage of the F-bomb. I understand situationally, you know, it's a little wonky. What did you make of that moment?
Oh, I thought that was really well delivered. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of profanity in Congress, but that was well delivered. The whole thing, the whole way he spun it up and told his story, and he was great. Josh Hawley was so good.
Yeah.
I could, you could just watch him dissect people all day long. This was thoroughly enjoyable, even though we got nothing out of Fauci. Because what this shows is that people in government never, ever admit to making mistakes.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Absolutely.
I agree with you on Josh Hawley 1,000,000%, because he's my Brandon Gill in the Senate. So put those guys together and let them just tear these little turds apart. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, and not only, I mean, it was interesting because did you play the part where I think it was Moreno asked him, "Do you know what the Fifth Amendment says?"
Yes.
Yeah. And who wrote it?
And who wrote it? Clearly. And who wrote it? Yeah.
And who wrote it?
Yeah.
And I love that these guys we have way too many lawyers in politics, but on a day like yesterday, you needed lawyers to do that kind of excavation work, because Fauci thinks he's so cute, right? He thought, and to his acolytes, this was adorable. Oh, look at him. He says the same thing every time, and he says it exactly the same way. But it really wasn't, and it was nauseating to watch. It was horrible to watch.
So where do we go from here with him? What's going to happen next?
I hope DeSantis is right. I hope the states are preparing charges.
Yeah,
because as I understand it, the pardon wouldn't cover that.
No,
because it's all a federal pardon, right? I mean, at the state level. And what about civil?
Right.
We talked about civil litigation yesterday as well, about families and all kinds of people suing him.
I don't want to just let him ride off into the sunset. I'm not impressed with the fact that he's 85. People like him live to 115. I've seen the vampire movies. I know how this works.
Yeah.
And I'm not done. I'm not. But at the same time, I'm also philosophical. Like I said, that this is why you don't give the government the power over things, because they will never, ever, ever admit, whether it's war, public health, they will never admit they were wrong.
That's exactly, and that goes back to our discussion we were having this half hour before you joined us, Jack, was could they ever pull this off again? And the government's got way too much power to not be able to.
Yeah, I mean, there's novels and there's movies about exactly this kind of thing. We knew this kind of thing could happen before it happened.
Yeah. I liked what you didn't really address this directly yesterday, but you had been characterizing Fauci as, if you wrote this guy in a screenplay, it would be such a stretch nobody would believe it. An evil guy who is also like a little girl writing in a diary about all this. I mean, watching him yesterday, I was reminded of that, of just what a vile creature he is. And if you wrote a guy like that, people wouldn't believe it. But this is absolutely what happened. This guy held
Dr.
sway.
No or Blofeld, they're not supposed to care about what their press clippings are. He actually cares. He believes that somebody like Tyra Banks or Barbara Streisand is a new friend. I love that, because you and I in this business, and Trey, right, especially you, Trey, I think you more than any of us, you've met a lot of famous people and entertainment people and celebs, and you're friendly with them in the moment, but you know they're not really your friend.
They forget your name 5 minutes later, man.
Yes, and it's not like you could call them up in a few months and go, hey, remember that good chuckle we had in San Antonio? But he really thinks.
Yeah.
Well, he's joined them.
But I'd like to remind both of you that he's just one of thousands that are in our government. He's just one. You know, you look at him and think about how many tens of thousands of people who live in that, as Donald Trump calls it, the swamp of D.C. They're all the same. They're all the same way.
Right.
They're just like him.
Right. Oh yeah, they're soulless.
Well, and they're
still there.
And they believe
us as
they believe,
things.
as we say in Texas, your stuff don't stink and all that kind. This is who they are, man. This is you're seeing what D.C. is there.
I mean, having grown up there, that arrogance that he has in his eye, you see inside the Beltway consistently. That's who they are.
But you don't have to grow up there to see that. We can see. You just look at him, and he is representative of all those people up there, because that's exactly what they think, and they think that way because we allow them to think. We allow them to have all that power, and it goes to their head. It's called a head trip.
So. I don't know how you can talk that way about someone that saved our lives.
I know. I can't believe
he's greater than that lifeguard.
Yes.
He's America's lifeguard.
Well, I'm going to go home and light my Fauci candle and pull out my...
I think you should light your Fauci bobblehead.
I'm going to.
Do it.
I'm going to light it with my Fauci candle. Have a great show, Jack.
Thank you.